my agenda go? There it is. Okay, item E2. Throw it away. Okay.
We got stuff separately from.
Okay, got it. You look lonely over there, Scott. Okay, so we're going to call the meeting back to order, and we are going to move on to item 3. And it looks like Scott's going to be our presenter on this one. Ready?
I am.
Okay,
All
let's
right.
do it.
Here we go. This is project 2014-028, modification to an existing permit for Burson Market. The project is located at 3185 West Highway 12 in Burson, at the corner of Burson Road and Highway 12. Here's an aerial of the property. The conditional use permit 2014-028 was approved by the Planning Commission in January 2016, allowing for the addition of gas pumps to the market. So here is the approved site plan and overlaid onto the aerial photo with the existing structures on the property. Now, the approval included demolition of some current commercial structures and paved lot with road access to Burson Road and Highway 12, 4 new gas pumps under a canopy, 2 12,000 gallon above ground fuel tanks, and other associated improvements such as trash enclosure, landscaping, and things of that nature. There were various conditions of approval that were placed on this project to ensure compliance with applicable state and local codes. The modification request concerns one such condition. It's condition 2.3 that the applicant shall adhere to the Planning Commission approved site plan, date stamped December 22nd, 2015, which is the site plan that I just showed you here. Upon implementation of the approved design, the applicant determined that a modification to the site plan would better meet the needs of the business. The proposed modification is as thus. It keeps the approved access to both Burson Road and Highway 12. It moves the fueling station further from Highway 12 to the center of the parcel, keeping the approved number of 4 pumps, but reconfiguring them into a single row instead of 2 rows of 2. Relocates the fuel tanks to the south and relocates the market from the northwest corner of the lot to the east side of the lot, with landscaping replacing the demolished market. So to better visualize these changes, let's kind of go over this again. So here's the approved structures on the lot from the conditional use permit, overlaid onto the modified site plan. The fuel tanks, they get moved to the south. The fuel pumps and canopy get moved. And the existing structures are demolished with the new market placed there. And where the old market was will be landscaped.
Can we applaud now? That was magnificent.
It's not fun. Okay. So the relocation of the market, fueling station, and other improvements does not change the use, intensity, or scope of the originally approved project. The proposed new market is approximately 3,200 square feet in size, replacing both the existing Burson Market building and the other existing buildings, which total approximately 3,400 square feet. The new market will be required by existing conditions of approval to adhere to all codes and regulations associated with a commercial structure, including lighting, parking, and noise. The fueling station will retain the approved number of 4 pumps. The number of fuel tanks remains unchanged, with no objection from any agency or department as to the new location, and all unpaved areas are to be landscaped, filling the condition for landscaping on the parcel. The 2 road encroachments that are to be used to access the site have not changed from those originally approved in the conditional use permit. Site distance at the southern corners of this intersection has long been an issue with Caltrans, with this building here, the church, and with Burson Market. This modified site plan relieves the issue on this corner, at least, of the intersection for site distance, with this now being landscaped instead of a building up to the property line. And so that actually will be improved from a transportation standpoint. Here are the elevations of what the new market is proposed to look like, and it is replacing the current market, which you can see a picture of here. The modified site plan was circulated to relevant departments and agencies. Most comments reiterated the conditions of approval for which they were responsible on the approved conditional use permit. Caltrans took the opportunity to further clarify some requirements they had for the encroachment permit that is required in the conditions of approval. But no comments received will require a change, modification, or addition to the conditions of approval of the current CUP other than condition 2.3, adherence to approved site plan, and condition 6.1, the clarification of the Caltrans encroachment permit application. An initial study was prepared for the original conditional use permit that analyzed the environmental impacts associated with the project and determined the proposed project will not have a significant environmental impact. The negative declaration was adopted as part of the approval of the CUP. Pursuant to section 15164B of CEQA guidelines, subsequent negative declaration for changes to an approved project is not required if the changes or additions are minor in nature and do not affect the known environmental impacts or create new environmental impacts. As previously discussed, the proposed project modification does not change the use, intensity, or scope of the approved conditional use permit and therefore does not change the impact of the previously evaluated project as outlined in the adopted negative declaration. So as a result, we recommend that you pass the resolution and approve this project.
Thank you. Any questions for Scott? Okay.
Yes.
Is he-
Just one quick one, Scott. I'm probably misreading something.
Okay.
Page 3 of 7 of the resolution. Item 2.3 refers to a site plan dated January of this year. Is
Yes,
that accurate?
that is accurate.
So this new site plan was all the way back to January?
Yeah, they had some issues with Caltrans and their engineer that they had, and we went through some different
Okay.
things, processes.
Just a
But,
question.
yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, would the applicant like to come up and speak?
Good day, Commission. Commissioner, my name's Thomas Owens. I'm the engineer. And the delay was I was in the hospital for 4 months, so
Well, I hope that-
that was part of it. But we prepared the new site plan in order to improve the circulation and the traffic flow. And we think we're going to end up with a much nicer, much cleaner product for the community. And I'm here to answer any questions if anybody's got any.
The setback on the building on that one property line where you're moving it to, is that a 10-foot setback?
Right. As far as the site plan goes, the driveway to Highway 12 has been shifted over to the west a little bit per Caltrans comments, and we've actually added an additional 8-foot dedication along that property, or a proposed dedication for the widening of that intersection to allow for a left turn lane onto
Okay.
Person. So this iteration was the original one that was done, but only with, we've only corrected the driveway over and added a dedication for the right or left turn lane.
And what's the setback on this, the new location of the fuel tanks?
I think it is 20 feet. I'm not sure exactly. We've got room to play there. The whole, that whole thing is like 35 or 40 feet. I don't have the dimensions here in front of me, but that whole southern landscape strip is 30 feet, I believe.
I'd have to get a scale out, but it appears to be 20 feet.
40 feet, okay.
20 feet or 40?
Well, 20.
What?
20.
Thank you.
Are those gasoline tanks or propane?
Gasoline. Propane, there's a little propane tank next to it.
And those are underground, correct?
No, above
They're
ground.
above ground? Okay.
The original approval was for above ground as well.
Yes, along that south property line, we have the water tank for fire suppression, we have a small propane tank, and then we have the two petroleum tanks.
What's on the property behind the tanks?
Grassland.
That's
Just-
actually, if you look, let's see if you can see it, and then have to go back a little bit. Through all my little things. So this is a single parcel here,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the U.S. Post Office right here.
And there's nothing on the property behind it at
No.
this time? What's the zoning on that, behind it?
I'm not. Yeah, I believe it's C1.
I think that's right, that the whole parcel is zone C1.
And is there going to be landscaping behind those tanks to prevent the people that own the lot find it, if they decided to build on it, to have to be looking directly at that? I'm just,
Well, we will have a fence.
Okay.
And we haven't discussed that, but I'm assuming that we're going to have a chain link fence with slats
got it,
to
okay.
kind of protect the view.
Okay. Any
On
other
the
questions?
northwest corner of the site plan,
Let me get the site plan here.
is that all just landscaping, or what does that represent?
We're going to use detention ponds, and we're going to landscape those to make them look like, with rocks, the riverbed, plants, so that we'll get a dual use out of them. They'll take our storm water, and then they'll also,
I'm sure Caltrans will be asking you, but there's nothing there to block the sight distance for people coming out on Burson Road.
they've made some requests.
Well, is there something that's more than 2 or 3 feet tall? Yeah.
We haven't completed the landscape plan yet. I mean, that is going to be, pretty much most of it is going to be just like a tall fescue grass that's, you don't have to cut.
Right.
It's a clumping grass, and then all of the landscaping, the bushy type stuff, will be around the inside perimeter of the parking lot.
It's gonna be a
But
lot.
the landscape plan comes later, right?
Yeah, I'm still.
It's one of the conditions of approval.
Still wrapping up some of the plans, but I hope to be ready to submit by next week.
It looks great. Great improvement.
Yeah.
When are you breaking ground?
As soon as I get through the planning, or the building department.
Thank you. Okay, is there any other questions? He has
I have
questions
one.
for you still, I'm sorry.
Okay.
The resolution that's put before the commission carries over the condition that if not validated prior to December 31, 2017, this conditional use permit shall expire. Is that date still workable from your standpoint?
Of getting a permit from someone by that date? Get started on this project by then?
Well, I was under the impression with the new, and I haven't talked to Scott about this, but I was under the impression with the modification that extended it some period of time. I mean, I'm ready to submit to the building department by next week, early next week. So that's going to depend on them. I mean, if they take 6 weeks to correct, then the answer is no.
Well, you have to go through, does he have to go to the supervisors after us still, too?
No.
No, okay. So it's feasible then, right?
I don't know.
I believe that the commission, based on this revised modification, can modify that condition to, the code says it's good until the end of the following calendar year. And so we could change that to 2019. I'm sure he's going to move forward immediately, but it would be December 31st, 2018, I'm sorry, 18, rather than this coming month.
think-
And that's not a problem to modify that condition.
Well, I think we should, because this is this is a considerable change to the project, and I'd hate to have it fall apart,
I agree.
in a month and a half.
Yeah, I was under the impression that it was going to be a date extension also. I mean, I could submit, but the big question is going to be the building department and what their backlog is. If they've got a 6 to 8 week backlog, then there's no way that that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think we can take care of
Which
that.
they do.
Yeah, okay. Did you have any questions? Okay. Did
Okay.
you have any, you're good, Commissioner Worcester?
I don't have any more questions of him.
thank
I
you.
will have some comments on the resolution
Okay.
when we get there.
Okay.
We're not there yet.
Take some public comment? All right. Anybody here would like to speak for the public?
Hi, my name is Melissa Pavlaki.
Okay,
I'm-
Melissa, it's not mandatory, but would you be willing to sign your name so that when
I
Annette-
did when,
Oh.
right when we came in from lunch so that I wouldn't take up time
Thank
doing
you.
that.
Okay. It helps her get the spelling right.
Yeah, it's on here.
Thank you.
I'm a longtime resident of Burson, California. I have been going to Burson Market for many years now. I think that the proposal to modify the situation can only benefit us, especially as a community, with opening up visually the roads to be able to enter and exit Burson Market. The gas station, as far as that goes, is definitely improvement. In order for us to get gas in Burson, we either have to drive to Valley Springs, California, or the other way to Wallace. So if you're coming per se from Modesto and you're coming up Burson Road from the valley, you would have to detour from the path I would personally take to get to my house to go fill up on fuel again before you park and get ready to leave. So it could only be an asset to the people that live in Burson, California. I also want to say that on a personal matter, the family that own this establishment and that are trying to make the improvements are not just doing that for themselves, they're doing it for our community. Burson basically doesn't have what you could say as a downtown Burson or a place to identify where our small town is. So it's putting a footprint on the map of where we are, and I just think that that's really an important thing to do. So thank you guys very much. I didn't have a whole lot to say, and if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any further public comment?
I've signed this already. My name is Larry Williams. I live in Wallace, and I'm just excited for this, for the owners of this business to be able to improve it. It's something that I've been looking forward to, and I know that many people have been looking forward to this change because we really need it badly here. And so, you know, obviously, you guys need to do your work and get this thing approved, and thank you very much for.
Thank you.
I'll sign in. My name is Perry Willard. I'm a real estate broker in Valley Springs. I know the family that is doing this, owns the property. The original proposal was to utilize the old Burson Market and just modify it and set it back, which was exciting at that point because that did open up the visibility on that intersection, which is an intersection that I use quite a bit, and I find it dangerous, you know. So now that they're doing this, that's even a better approach to this. And if for no other reason, just to make that a safer intersection in the county, you know, that would be worth doing it. But it also opens up some commerce out there in Burson, which is growing. I have some rental properties out there. One of the complaints is they have to go all the way into Valley Springs to get anything. And in that technology, the Burson Market is probably from the 30s. and it definitely doesn't fit that highway anymore. So this new store with a new intersection, and I think somebody said that we're actually going to gain a turning lane on this, out of this. It's all perfect for the community. So kind of like the Century 21 building downtown Valley Springs where they redid all that, that was kind of a blind spot at one time. I think this is going to look a lot like that. Any questions? Anybody want to buy a house?
No, but we'd sell you one. Thank you for coming.
Great family, by the way.
Good afternoon. Colleen Platt with My Valley Springs. We supported this project originally with our only concerns being the problem with the safety at that intersection and the sight distance. So we absolutely support the modification to the plan to make that a safer intersection and better sight distance, and the left turn lane would be super there. And we also support the date extension of time to give them time to properly do the plans. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
I haven't seen a turn lane.
So that'd be nice.
I already signed it.
Thank you.
Okay. Everybody's been talking about the property. I'd like to talk a little bit about the family. My name is Raymond Burhop, and I bought my property in 1977 in Burson, and I moved up here permanently in 1991. I've known the Alphabet family for since 1998 when they bought the Burson Market. Now, something that a lot of people don't know. Louis started the father when people came in and they were short of money or they needed some help, he would do that. He would extend them credit. Their religion doesn't allow them to charge interest. So if you charge $10, when it's time to pay up, you paid up $10, nothing more. In 2009, Louis' brother died. He lived in Modesto, and they had a lot of property down there. So he spent about 4 years trying to settle that estate. Well, also at the end of that time, he took his sister-in-law and nephews back to Yemen because he still had to do some business back there. And while he was in Yemen, something strange happened. They had a civil war. He's a U.S. citizen, and there's no U.S. embassy in Yemen. So he was trapped. It took him about 2.5 to 3 years to get out of Yemen with his extended family into Jordan, and from Jordan he could come into our states. So in the meantime, his son, Hani, was running the business, and he started this plan of setting up a new business up there, or a new store, whatever you call it. So it's something to think about. These are not only neighbors, they are assets to our community, even though it isn't a big community. And I always kid Hani because I knew him so long. You're right. But anyhow, they are more than family to us, or to me. They are also a family to many of the other people that live in Burson. Like I said, I don't think that they have ever turned down anybody that needed help. So, like I said, this is going to be good for Burson. It might even put us on the map a little bit. See, we got a nursery, 2 churches, a post office, a restaurant, all on one side of the street. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joyce, and I've lived in Burson since 1989. And take it from me, we need a gas station, that place. Because I'm always running out of gas from my house to Valley Springs, and it's like not the funnest thing to do, especially at night. And when Hani told me first that he wanted to redo this, I was sit there and I was like, really? And I think it would be really good for us. Like I said, I've been there since a little girl, so I've watched this town like get a little bit bigger by the day. But I think that with their help, with what they plan on in that intersection, the left turn, we definitely need to. I think it would be a great idea just for us, period, because we have a lot of traffic on that road, and there's accidents all the time because nobody's not paying attention because we can't see or whatever the case may be. And so that would improve a lot too. Less accidents, and then more people, more visitors, and more tourists coming through when it's during the winter, summertime. But we definitely need the gas station, especially for people like me. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Is there any further comment today? Okay. No, we got your message and it was a good one. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the commissioners. If you have any more questions you have of either the applicant or staff.
I actually like this project. I go through this intersection all the time. And where the store is now, between the store and the church, it's a block view either. If you're looking right or if you're looking left, it's hard to see. So the fact that they're moving the store, I think that that's perfect.
Okay.
Just a question, Scott, on the site plan that I'm looking at is the grading and drainage plan. Again, looking at that northwest corner. And as Commissioner just said, the site distance on that corner is crazy. And is this moving back? I know the old building is gone, but I see what the engineer said is the drainage area and landscaping. Is that going to give any more clearance, I suppose is the word, to make a right-hand turn than we do now?
It's really up to Caltrans on what they want to do with the dedication. I think you might have more to say about that than I do.
And then the other same concept right around the corner, it doesn't look like there's any extra laneage at all, where there could be.
Well,
could get more distance or width.
Yeah, so if I understand correctly, Caltrans is asking for some more dedication right through
It's
here.
actually a county requirement.
Oh, it's a county requirement.
Yeah,
Public
the letter
Works.
from Robert Packinger.
Gotcha.
Caltrans told us that intersection is under the, there's a county improvement fund, and that intersection falls under that. And in our comment letter from Robert Packinger, he wanted us to make sure that we dedicated enough to provide for a 76-foot right-of-way for the addition of a left-hand turn lane. And so what I've done is we added the 8-foot, plus I've increased the radius around that intersection, because right now it's just a square intersection, but I've added a 30-foot radius return so that trucks could get in and out. And that doesn't reflect on this.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I don't see it.
Because this was the original one.
Oh, all
I
right.
just want to, for clarity purposes, a couple of the commenters talked about a left-hand turn lane. That is not a requirement. You're just providing land for future, correct?
That is, the dedication is a requirement of the Public Works Department here
Okay, but they're
for the improvement of that intersection.
for a later date. It's not part of the project that a left-hand turn lane is going in, correct?
If you hold on a second, I'll grab the letter from Packinger.
I didn't see anything.
It's my understanding that dedication is part of it, not.
That's what I
Yeah,
thought. What I read was dedication of
Yeah,
the land
it's-
for a future
and
improvement.
Any changes to the roadways is the Public Works thing. It's not involved with this.
I just
project.
don't want people to leave here thinking that we approved of a left-hand turn lane and that's not
Yeah.
really coming right away.
Yeah, approval of left-hand turn lane is not part of this project.
So, got that?
And
Okay.
when we're talking left turn lane, are we saying from 12 onto Burson, or are we talking from Burson onto 12?
No,
12 on Burson.
12 on to Burson.
Really? Are you okay? Thank you. Okay, did that get all the questions answered? Okay. You had some discussion you wanted to have on the resolution?
Yes. Under the Planning Department conditions on page 3, number 2-1, it says this approval is for a conditional use permit, CUP, et cetera. That's taken from the previous grant of the CUP. What this is actually an approval is for a modification to an existing conditional use permit. And I think it should say that. Condition number 2-2, regarding the payment of all of these fees. My understanding is that that's not required anymore, they already did it.
Correct.
And so I don't think that should be in there. And the last one is on page 6. Condition V-2P 7. It's the one right before V-3 on page 6. And it says that a minimum, the concrete fuel dispensing area must extend 6.5 feet from the corner of each fuel dispenser, or the length at which the hose and nozzle assembly may be operated plus 1 foot, excuse me, whichever is less. And I take it the idea here is to have the concrete fuel dispensing area extend far enough so that if you have a spill out the end of the hose, the spill encounters asphalt instead of concrete instead of asphalt. The way this is worded, it doesn't work if your hose is 10 feet long. It should be whichever is greater in the last phrase. And again, this was copied from the previous one, so it got by everybody once, but we'll cut it this time.
Never again.
Unless the planning department has some comments that would suggest otherwise.
Sounds like you're right to me.
That's all I had.
And on 2-3, to adhere to the approved site plan date stamped the 2015, is that going to be the new site plan with the new date?
Well, the most current site plans I have that were officially submitted, yeah, so we can go for,
Yeah.
see, the most recent ones that you submitted to Caltrans that I have were
Sorry,
the,
just,
you're right.
we just have new site plan maps that I think we should be adhering to instead of 2015.
2015.
Where's 2015?
Mine says 2017.
Mine says 27.
Mine says 2015.
You're looking at probably the old conditions that were included in the packet. Go to the front of the packet.
You did it too? Okay, I've been fixed.
There we go.
We're okay now.
You're confusing me there for a second.
That's okay. It keeps you on your toes. Okay. So do we all have the changes that we would like to see made and we're all good?
Yeah, we already discussed 2-4. That's supposed to go to,
Yes,
So
absolutely.
we're going to
We wanna
2018 on that
extend
now?
date to 2018.
Okay.
Well, I have a question. Should these public works conditions then be changed to conform to whatever it is that Public Works is now requiring? And/or Caltrans? page 4 of 7 of the resolution.
Last comment I got from Public Works reiterated these conditions. I was not apprised that they changed these conditions.
That's just a question, I don't know. I haven't analyzed it. So you think the way it's worded is consistent with what
I think it is.
Public Works wants, okay.
Okay. I think we're at the end of the discussion.
I'll discuss.
You said, oop.
I'm just not going to ask any questions, but because I think this is just a fine thing, it's a fine presentation. I appreciate the members of the public coming in and endorsing this as a fine project. And as a gas buying member of, driver of Highway 12, I don't want to give you a hard time, but I can't look forward to giving you the business. I think it's fine.
Okay. You know what, I think today is a phenomenal day with the public coming out and speaking in favor of projects in the different districts, and it's amazing. I love it. Thank you all for taking the time out of your day to show up here. It's good to hear from the public. On a positive note, okay, so what I'd like to do is have you read the recommendation as amended that we've given changes to.
Staff recommends that the Planning Commission pass a motion authorizing the chair to sign Resolution 2017-094, approving MEP 2014-028 based upon the findings contained therein as amended.
Thank you. Can I get a motion, please?
You did have the magic words as amended in there, right?
Yes, you did.
Okay. I so move.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
I went into it one time, trying to get some fishing rods or something.
We used to have a gas pump out the front.
All right, so we're going to carry on with our... All right, 15 minutes. So we're going to continue on with item 4 on the agenda, and that is going to be an appeal by Minerva Lamas. And Ben, you are doing this today?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. We're ready.
All right, this is Appeal 2016-212, Minerva Yamas on behalf of A&M Empire, appealing the denial of commercial medical cannabis cultivation registration application 2016-212 by the planning director. This site is located out on 5624 El Camino Casale, I think it's pronounced, in Murphy's, in the Murphy's Pines subdivision. It's a 5-acre parcel. This project was denied for failing to meet the posting standards as set in 1795165I, failing to meet the requirements regarding RVs and trailers as set forth in section 1795165L and 1795165N14, and failing to meet the cultivation area security requirements pursuant to 1795, 165, and 10. On March 14th, a compliance inspection was conducted on the parcel and some code violations were identified. A correction notice was issued via email on March 15th, 2017, the following day. With this correction list, the burden of proof sheet, which describes how it is incumbent upon the applicant to provide satisfactory evidence that the necessary corrections have been made, was included as an attachment, so the applicant was aware of what the requirements were for evidence of the corrections being made. When the inspectors were at the site, this was the only posting identified on the fence that fronts the road. Here we see 2 physician statements and a temporary seller's permit. The temporary seller's permit was valid from 9/6/16, so September 6, 2016 to December 1st, 2016. And it was not till October 25th of this year, when the appellant was dropping off some supporting material, that the planning department got a permanent seller's permit for the application. And nowhere on the property at this time was the certificate of application pending posted. And here we see a picture of, I believe it's the top or second terrace on the cultivation site looking north. As you can see, there is no fencing surrounding the cultivation area. And here we see, looking down towards the bottom, still no fencing anywhere on the property beyond that front wood fence that is at the top of the property. And here we're looking down at the mixing tanks, and you can see the lower portion and kind of the side here, and there's just absolutely no fencing whatsoever around the cultivation area, and as a result, there's no gates, and it cannot be secured by locks. Additionally, when staff was reviewing the application after receiving code's recommendation, aerial imagery showed a trailer present on the property on June 2nd, 2017, for which no permits were pulled, and it is not in dead storage, as you will see later. June 14th, the trailer is still there. June 28th, trailer is still there, and awnings extending out from it, implying that it's at least somewhat in use and is capable of being inhabited, so certainly not in dead storage. And then July 6th, this is a picture from a flight that the sheriff's office did. You can see an individual sitting in front of the trailer and the door is open. Certainly still not in dead storage, which is the only way this trailer would be able to be on the property without a permit. And we see that there may be some cultivation going on in the hoop houses. It's unclear really from this far out, and some planter boxes have been added to that top terrace. It's unclear what exactly is going on in there. And it does appear that some fencing has been erected, but it's not clear whether or not it extends around the entire cultivation area as required. When the appeal was filed, it was stated in the appeal letter that a formal rebuttal and supporting documentation would be supplied. Some supporting documentation was given, but a formal rebuttal never came. So it is unclear exactly what the purpose of the supporting documentation is, because there was no rebuttal to give it context. These documents were an email on October 3rd to Miguel Contreras, where it appears the applicant is trying to explain their situation and get the denial rescinded prior to having to file an appeal, in which they explained that they thought it was too cold to have their workers go out and install the fence, and that is why they missed the deadline for the corrections, and including an email chain that has emails for March 27th which the appellant claims to have sent to Officer Watts, the inspecting officer for this site, and Officer Watts never got them, and it's kind of confusing, this email chain that's in the October 3rd email to Miguel, because it excludes the March 24th email where Officer Watts communicates with the appellant and the appellant responds to him, but it's just unclear what all this documentation's purpose is because there's no context really to support it. But let's take a look at what was submitted. We have a picture of a gate with a lock on it, and in the back you can see T-posts without any fencing on it, and it's unclear exactly the date these pictures were taken because there's no date stamps. And then we have someone holding a tape measure up to a post with fencing on it. It appears that that fencing is likely incomplete off to the left because it's slumping down, which sort of implies that there's no support to that side, so it's likely incomplete leading off the photo there. And here we see what is assumed to be the application pending document posted on the gate. It is obviously not in compliance with the urgency ordinance because that appears to just be a 11 by 8 piece of paper with no 18 by 18 signboard behind it, and of course no reflecting material. Otherwise there would be some very bright oversaturating reflective material surrounding that permit, and it's obvious that there is not. And next to that we see a picture of the address for the property, which is also a requirement under 165I, and in addition to having the address of the property be posted, that section of the code requires that it be in conformance with California Code of Regulations, Title 14, Section 1274.09, which requires that the stroke be 0.5 inches in width and 4 inches in height, reflectorized and contrasting with the signboard that it is on. Spray painted numbers onto a 2x4 do not meet that requirement. In addition, on October 25th, the appellant dropped off some more supporting documentation, what appears to be a call log, although it is unclear how it was generated, who generated it, and the validity of the data contained therein. It's kind of clear from the context on this little table that it is a call log because it says call on it a few times and has outgoing and some phone numbers. It appears that the appellant called code compliance, which is the 6326 number, a couple times, and planning once, the 6394 number, and then after April stopped calling. And it is unclear exactly what this is meant to support. And in addition to that, we have a receipt for copies that were made for the appellant on September 29th, 2017, and a receipt that the appellant paid their first installment of the Measure C Canby tax. In summary, code compliance inspected the site on March 14th, identified multiple code violations. A correction notice was issued on March 15th, giving the applicant 10 days to correct them or supply evidence that the corrections were being made. Code compliance did not receive any evidence that these corrections had been completed within the given timeline, and a unpermitted trailer has been observed in use on the property in excess of the 14 days allowed, and it is certainly not in dead storage. And just to finish up, the only two permits that have been issued for this property are a well permit and a septic permit, neither of which have been finalized. The well requires testing, which has not yet been completed, and it is unclear if the septic has ever been installed, but neither permit has been final. And with that, I'm finished.
Hi, I'm I'm
I'm gonna-
Minerva.
let me see if the commissioners have any questions for Ben real quick.
Just one question. The code compliance, when they do send out an email with the violations, do they generate one of their hard copy reports also showing, you know, the parcel and the, you know?
They also gave us you mean the inspection sheet with
Yeah.
the boxes on it? We
Right.
do have that, and I've made some copies if you would like to see it.
Yeah, I think it's always good on these, when code compliance is involved, that we see that, because sometimes that gives rise to other questions.
And in addition to that inspection report, I also have an affidavit from Officer Watts, who is in Tahoe. I'd asked him to be here, but code compliance is being trained quite a bit through all this, so they are not available. So if you would like, I can give that to you as well.
That's up to you.
I like how loud his voice is. I like how loud his voice is. I can hear. I know, he speaks well.
One quick question. I couldn't quite hear what you said with the two permits applied for, and one was well, and the other is?
Yes, currently the only two permits on the property are a well permit and a septic permit, neither of which have been final.
Neither final, all right, thank you.
On the pictures that you showed a little while ago, I believe you said there was in March 14th, 2017. Who took those photos?
These ones?
Yes.
Those are pictures from code compliance
Thank
during
you.
their inspection.
I haven't read the affidavit yet, but, do you know why he says fence question mark on this form?
Because I assume that's the fencing at the top of the parcel, but then there is no fencing surrounding the rest of the parcel. At the time of the inspection, the only fencing present is that wood fence at the top.
May I say something? In that regard, yes, we had a wooden fence that we had to put up.
Okay,
There
I'm
was-
going to give you just 1 second,
sorry.
because what's going to happen is you're going to get 15 minutes for your presentation. I just want them to finish up asking him any questions first, then we
Okay.
go to you and you get your 15 minutes
That's
and we'll
fine.
ask you questions. We're trying to catch up on the reading, I'm sorry.
It's the first time I've ever seen the word whilst in the planning department's documents.
You saw cheers.
He's referencing some verbiage that's in this document. It's not anything that's against you in any way, shape, or form. I'm sorry. Control yourselves. They need a break.
They're hallucinating.
All right, is everybody done reading? Okay, do we have any further questions for Ben, or can I allow her to now begin her presentation?
No questions.
Okay, we're ready. It's your
Okay.
time. You're up. Thank you for being so patient.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak today. So first, yes, I had my inspection on March 14th, And as you can tell, I am extremely high on compliance, which is why I don't have anything growing there at the moment. It was extremely cold during those times, and as we did have our sign up, it actually broke it in half, and when compliance and we showed up for our visit to make sure that we were going to be in code and we were following everything that needed to be followed, we actually both saw the broken piece on the floor, and that was one of the reasons why he put fencing ? Because at that point, what we were able to do with the weather conditions and everything the way it was only built a fence around our property to actually secure it to begin with, before even drilling into getting into doing the parcel. Excuse me. Sorry. So a lot of the things that you see here with the report that we were going through, it was, and the emails that you read, was me asking Ben, I'm sorry, not me asking Thomas exactly what kind of fencing did we need, what kind of material, was I getting the right one, because I did, and I was in every way, shape, and form trying to comply. So even though the weather conditions were horrible, and through it all, the 10 days that they gave me was on the 26th, which was a Sunday. And so what I did is I followed up the next day, which is on the 27th. I called him. I sent out the email with the pictures included. Prior to that, on March 23rd, him and I did speak, and he said that the best thing for me to do to ensure that I was compliant and everything was do exactly what I did, which is send the email and follow up with a call, and to continue to do so. So I did the following days. That's the call log that you see, is me just following up with him, trying to get some answers. I believe you guys, I actually came down, and there was a blackout in town, and it was like 800 houses were on blackout that day, and that was on a Wednesday, I believe, on the 29th. And then I did come back on April 1st. And every time that I came back, which was also to have meetings with the tax department to pay them, every single time that I came, I must have been in these offices multiple times, and I was told the same answer, which was it's being reviewed, planning department has it, or compliance hasn't moved it over, and I would leave messages. I left tons of messages, and I didn't once receive a call back trying to either not help me, I guess I should say, just to confirm and make sure that I was highly into compliance and everything. As of now, ever since I got the notice, I eradicated everything, and it's because I don't want to not follow the rules and not to be in compliance. I started all of this, sorry. I started all of this in the hope that we would be in a group that was working towards being compliant and starting a new venture, and the way things have gone are definitely new to me, and I do have pictures that show better pictures that are during the day now that actually have the sign that is asked for, the fencing in a better view, porta potties, because we don't spend the night there. I mean, what happens is we have a trailer because we were told before, when compliance actually came to my location, I asked them what type of, what can we have so that we can actually store our papers, have, you know, not just, we need to have something. We're not sleeping there. We have no way, we have no septic tank, nothing. Even though we do have a permit that was put on the septic, for the septic tank, that was something new to me that rolled over from the previous owner. And in my defense, I just want to have a fair, I'm sorry, I just want to have a fair evaluation, and I would like to know that it wasn't neglect out of me or my company or anyone else that was trying to disobey or not abide by and I'm here today to rectify anything that I can and do anything I can in my power to show to show everything that I can in my end, to show that I'm here and I'm trying. I'm asking for the emails either to be included or for also this new evidence that I have here, which is the current pictures, so that you guys could take them in. Of course.
Thank you.
Also, as I know that compliance has their hours posted from 8 to 4, they also, on the website, and every time that I actually did get a hold of prior to 23rd, with Thomas, I spoke with him between 4 and 5 o'clock, and that was because he informed me that that's when he was back in the office, and that's when he would be touching down, and if I had a question about any material, so forth, that I can contact him during those times. I did go on the website multiple times, and on the website alone here, it's consistent with what he said. It's the hours are here, and it says it loud and clear. It's definitely the hours for the office are 8 to 4, but it also says phone hours, which is the way me and him were contacting each other. It says 8 to 5. So, now, I am a property owner. We don't plan to sell the property. I love this area. The whole reason me and my family decided to venture this way is because we're tired of the Bay Area and all the crowdedness. And I have 2 children, and I just want to start a different life in a different, calmer area. And this has just been my favorite place for a very long time now. So.
When did you take these photos?
I recently took, so this area footage one we've had for a while, probably, I think I have one with the date stamp of March 29th. I don't know if I have it with me. But this one with the sign up close, and this one with, is more current, because I wanted to just make sure that what I had was, I wanted to show you what we currently had. Along with this one, we moved, we had someone come out and take a look at our area and redo our address and put it in the right location, made sure it was up to code with compliance and so forth. I've tried to do everything I can. It's very small. It's not a big thing, but it is my life. And that's the reason I'm here today.
When did you start and complete the fence?
We started to build the fence on the 23rd. I believe on the 14th he came in for the visit. On the 15th, when he sent the email, I was out of town, and I did notify him that I would be out of town. He said he would contact me in the next 3 days, which he did. But I didn't get back to my email until the 22nd. So immediately on the 22nd, we came on the 23rd, 24th, and just started to work right through the weekend. That would have given me 2 days, and the weather during that weekend was just ridiculous. But we did it, and we did it on Monday, and I thought that that was something that we had both agreed on with Thomas, because from the beginning when I talked about the weather conditions, he agreed. It was extremely cold, and he agreed. He's the one that pointed out the sign that was broken on the floor, and he agreed that it would be questionable if we would be able to extend it or not due to those conditions. And I went back to the handbook for, what is the handbook? I'm sorry, I'm blanking out. And it was the weather was just ridiculous. It was under, I think, I do actually have the weather report.
We got your notes on that.
Yeah.
Occupants or employee handbook.
Employee handbook, that's exactly what I did, to just double check and make sure that it wasn't some assumption I was just going off or what was too cold, because I knew I couldn't feel my toes and my fingers. So,
I think you just, when you were talking about the history today, I think you said you mailed in some pictures was it in March?
Oh, I took more pictures. So I started to take pictures through our entire setup to make sure that I was documenting what we had and what we didn't, and to continue when I would go to the planning department to ask if they needed any more evidence of me or anything else of me at that point.
When did the planning department get those pictures?
They never claimed to have got my email on the 27th. So
Yeah.
on my denial, I think was based on the fact that they never added those into my documents. And I actually went into the planning department and asked for my folder and to review it and make sure everything was in there. And sure enough, that email was not in there, which is the reason why I then forwarded that email along with the rest of the emails to a worker there named Miguel. And Miguel took it in, and I was under the impression again that that would be part of my case, and that wasn't it. I went in a third time again, and that's when I actually spoke with Ben, and we sat down and we looked to see what I had in my appeal letter, if I had any evidence, if I had any trace of any email or anything, and I didn't have anything there, nothing that I had previously asked to submit in. So we started from fresh, and I've submitted the ones that are date stamped on October 25th, and that I did get help from Ben that day too. He must have taken a half an hour, poor guy,
So it
with
was
me.
in March was when you first, that was when you
On March
finished taking pictures?
27th was the first time I've submitted pictures in through
And you
email.
submitted by email?
Yes.
And that email
It
can't be
disappeared.
found?
Yeah, but the weird thing is I never went in to type the email again. It was always a reply all, reply all. I never get into the practice of typing in people's names or anything. So when he reached out to me first, I saved it, and from there forward, everything was reply all, reply all, reply all. So I was really mind-boggled by the fact that it got lost. And maybe I thought with Miguel that it might have been an overseeing, and it wasn't. Everything wasn't taken into consideration correctly for some reason, and that's the reason he had the follow-up email then. And he informed me later on the phone. He called me and he did say that I would have to come in for court and that I would have to appeal it, which then I did go in and I paid for the appeal, and I just followed up slowly on how I was going to go about this.
And so, when did, and maybe you've
No,
already
that's
answered, when did you actually finish the fence?
Oh, we finished right away. We finished on the
in March?
26th. That's the reason the pictures are also dark. We finished like that night. We took the pictures. I was there. If it would have been here, I would have ran over and submitted them right in if that was the case. I thought the 27th would have been fine, and
So-
as long
so
as I
that's the-
contacted him. Yes,
These pictures
yes.
were submitted by the end of March.
Yes, they were submitted the 27th. The email that was missing, that's it there.
Now, this one of the gate
Yes.
and the lock, it was noted by the planning department that it appears there are empty T-posts going down behind it. Do you want to comment on that?
I'm not really sure what angle they got, but I do have a picture of the completed one. I didn't submit this, and I don't know if I can now.
I mean, the
But that, the
implication
fence
is
was,
that there are
that was
empty T-posts.
incorrect. It was up, and we definitely worked right through
So
the
those-
cold weather to make sure that we got
If
it
those are
through.
empty T-posts, they're just out there somehow. in
Oh,
the-
we have a bunch of empty, yeah, we were doing a cleanup and trying to just get everything up and running and going and comply and be at 100%.
You had more pictures you wanted to see.
I'm not sure if I did submit these, did I get these?
I think that's what we got.
Oh, yeah, I think that's what you got.
Yeah, thank you.
And then, when you first talked with Miguel,
Yes.
you brought pictures in then?
Yes, when I first talked to Miguel, I actually asked, that's when I realized that the email that I had forwarded over to Thomas was not included in the folder, and that's where I was really confused about. And I asked him to please print out that email and include it in my file, because it was very important. It was not just sent to him, it was also sent.
That's okay. We can keep asking you questions, even if there's a red light. Yes, so go ahead.
So that was the reason that the email was sent to him,
But,
was so that it would be included in the folder. It was never acknowledged until I physically went there and said, I want this in my folder. And even then, I wanted it to be part of my appeal, but even then, it still wasn't. When I sat down with Ben to speak about it, that's when he brought out an empty folder and said, let's start from scratch. What do you want to put in? So I then forwarded the email to Ben. He printed it out there while I was standing there and made sure he stamped it and put it in my folder. In fact, I stood there and did that for all of the evidence that I've submitted in, because I wanted to make sure that everything was going to be transparent and that I was trying to be as transparent as
and
possible.
when was it that you first talked with Miguel?
Oh, God.
Roughly, I
It
know.
was
I don't
right
know.
after I received so September 19th, I received it.
Oh, okay.
And so it was right after.
That's close enough.
Oh, yeah.
But I understand you brought stuff into him and then
Yes.
they disappeared? Those
They,
things?
they just were not in my file. They weren't printed out and in my folder the way I.
No, I meant, did you bring things into Miguel that day? Or did you just,
I forwarded over the email and then we talked about it.
Then
So I
we
know
talked about it.
he acknowledged that he saw it and that he had it.
and that just, at, which was a time when you were about to appeal or were appealing,
Yes.
that didn't immediately get into your file, but then when you talked with Ben,
Yes, when I finally talked with Ben, I think that's when I started to really have more of an eye-opener and say, okay, I really need to be selective of what I put in and the way it goes in, and because of I was underneath the assumption that everything was going into my folder, but really, not to say it was cherry-picked, it might have just not been useful to them, but it was useful to me, and I feel like it should have been put in there. Sorry.
so the very cold weather that
Yes.
that kept people from working, I guess, on the fence,
Yes.
that was like before March 25th, correct? And
That was, that was actually while we were working the 23rd, the 24th, the 25th, and the 26th.
Okay,
So those
so
cold-
it isn't as if you said, gee, March and April were pretty cold and,
Oh, well, yeah,
We didn't
they
put
were
it in the fence.
extremely cold, and
but I mean, what I'm saying is, how much of a delay was there because of the cold?
really, there wasn't a delay because, really, that's why I was so passionate about coming in, was that we worked right through it, and whether or not we switched people in and out, we were just trying to comply at 100%, and the effort just wasn't even acknowledged.
So according to the urgency ordinance as of Sorry. According to June 30th in the urgency ordinance, you were supposed to have your property fenced
Yes.
of 2016. When code compliance came in March of 2017, was any of that fenced or no?
Yes, we had the wooden fence up, which was, so when I first purchased the property, it
Okay,
was
so-
no fence.
Okay, when did the wood fence go up?
Oh, God. It went up immediately after receipt, so I would say end of May. As soon as we got the property, we wanted to make sure that we were securing it and that the fence, that we were securing it for our own purposes, and including with complying with everything we needed to comply with.
Did
We
that
wanted
wood
to section
fence
everything off.
encapsulate the entire property?
Yes.
So was there a lock on that wood fence?
Yes. Yes, and he did acknowledge that too, and that's the reason, right there where he put fence and a question mark. I was right next to him when he did it.
So he had you build a second fence on the interior of the perimeter
Yes.
around the cultivation?
Yes, he said to be completely in compliance, you are going to want to secure it, so that there's no animals, children, or anyone getting in, and more kind of, I asked him what material, he said chicken bar wire or
He mentioned field
Right.
fencing, yeah.
and that was the reason why I questioned the fence, because I needed to make sure that I was in compliance with what he was looking for.
Where's the RV now?
It's still my property. It's
Okay.
still I have a home in Newark, California, and driving back and forth I can move the RV, I can take it out, that's not
Is
a
it
big deal for me
permitted?
at all. Yes, we don't have a permit to have it on site, but I wasn't using it as a sleeping or anyone dwelling or anyone living there. When I had talked to compliance in the beginning when they came to my location, I asked them what would be something we can have, bring in. I asked if I can, get one of those little houses that built up, and they said, RV is fine to have as an office, in and out, and they said I wouldn't have to do anything else, and I actually didn't purchase
Who
it
came to your
till
property
after.
and when, and who told you that?
Thomas?
And that was in the
Fox.
March inspection?
Yes.
So, okay, so that wasn't an early on inspection, that was
No,
later in
there was-
March.
It was the one inspection
The
that he
code
had on March
inspection.
14th, yeah. And he said that that would work as that. I didn't realize that we needed to move it or take it out of there, so that I wasn't under the assumption that you guys were under the assumption that anyone was sleeping there. I thought it was very clear that that's not a place to live, and it just wasn't livable. I don't,
Did he ask for anything to, because two of the failures here are camping on the property.
yes.
And failure to meet housing standards. Did he ask you to do anything to fix those code compliance issues?
No, when he first came to my property, he asked me if I was planning to do any kind of living there, and I said no. The septic tank that was open previously, I just got a call, I'd say 2 months ago, and I asked for them to close it out because I didn't submit it in, and I'm not planning to build a house on that area. We want to move this way. I don't want that area to serve as my
Okay, I
home.
don't care about that. I just want to get to the bottom of, you've got 3 issues here that are
Yeah.
checked, okay? Those are the 3 issues I care about today.
Okay.
Camping on the property, which you say you never did. The
Do not
trailer was
have.
used just for office space because you don't live there.
Yep.
Nobody stays on the property and manages the farm.
Nope. We
How's-
travel back and forth. We have the double gate. We had dogs in the area. We've caught a couple rattlesnakes there. It's just not a livable area. It's not an area where anyone can actually live there. We do have a porta potty as well because we're not using a septic tank and we're not plugging in the trailer, not even for the restroom because we don't want to use it in that way.
And now we don't
On a picture of the sign that you gave us today, of your posting today, do you have that picture in front of you?
I do know what picture that is.
There's a couple things that it says that you have to have. You have to have reflective tape, the sign has to be so big, and it has to be weatherproofed. How is that sign weatherproofed?
No, this, actually it was laminated, 1. 2, this one was not the posting that we had up. We had a posting that was up that broke.
Which one do you
That's-
have up now?
That's the second one. This is the second time we've made a post and we've put it on there. The first one broke off. This
I
was,
don't care about the first one. Well, I'm asking about that one. That
Right.
one, right now, it's weatherproofed, it's hanging, and when did you put that sign up?
this has been up. And actually I have, I guess I should say, 1 sign, that is the one that I showed you here, that's well put on. And then I have another one, which I currently still have another
And
one.
that sign's weatherproofed, and I can see the reflective
Yes.
tape, and I can see the sides of it.
Yeah, it's laminated through the sides and everything. And I do have the second one, and if you see, I nailed it down because I want to make sure that it
But
doesn't.
that's the second one?
Yeah,
There's, okay.
but this one is what he was saying. It was the one that was a seller's permit till December 1st. The one that we have that's up laminated along with the permit is the one that is our permanent correct number that needed to be, should have been submitted in the beginning. And I think when we submitted in, it was a temporary seller's permit that I had turned in. And when I talked to the county, to the tax, they told me to go back, void that one out, and then we reissued a new one still with those same dates. So,
I must say,
starting and ending, and I'm sorry.
I had the same question about weatherproofing on that one, but the shadow shows the lamination.
Oh, okay. And I still don't understand when it got hung up, so.
Thank you.
So that's been up from the beginning, I
Not that
guess.
one.
Not that one, because that one's not in compliance.
Oh, okay,
The
this
that-
one in March. I have one that has I don't have it with me, but I do have one that has a time stamped here, that's March 29th. And that one I took of during the day, a little bit closer, just in case he needed a second picture.
You did not turn one into county with a time date stamp on it or anything like that, correct?
I did not turn a second, no, I didn't turn in a second picture into
But
that.
the picture that you were just
But
holding
this is
up,
it, and this is
that
the one
one-
that's been up since
that
March.
was one of the pictures that you emailed, where the email just went off.
Yes, I believe so.
Nowhere.
This is,
Doesn't look like it.
these are the pictures I emailed. This is just a closer picture of it, but he was the one that pointed it out when it was on the floor. It's too dark to tell.
Do I? Oh, I'm sorry. When you're done, I have a question.
I don't see this one included in here, I'm sorry. I was incorrect, I don't see this one included.
Let's see.
Yeah,
Do I understand correctly that you're saying that there's a wooden fence that goes all the way around the outside of your property
absolutely.
that matches what we see in the picture from the front of
Absolutely.
your property? And yet,
And then
when we
there's
get
a
to,
second fence.
when we get to the report here, there is the fence question mark, but there's also no fence, use natural terrain, which sounds as if he's writing down some things like what you said was, well, we didn't need I'm just guessing.
Right.
We didn't
And
need a
that's-
fence because the terrain's so bad, why, nobody's
Right.
gonna get in.
Well,
So
as
we
he was-
don't have any,
As he was
any
writing
proof
these
that
notes-
that around the perimeter of your property, that wooden fence continues around the other three sides.
He did walk the area with me, and I asked him if he wanted to walk the entire area, and he said that no, that it was fine up to where I took him, but he did ask that we built a second fence inside, in a little bit more closer, refined area of exactly where the cultivation would be
The
at.
pictures he took when he was out there in his inspection does not show a fence around the grow. There was no fence around the grow
There
at
was
that
no
point,
grow
but
at
there
the
was a fence around the property that was at least 6
Yes.
feet high and solid wood. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
You're telling us that this 5-acre parcel has a wooden fence all the way around it?
It has a fence all the way down to the side, and then all the way down it has more of the terrace, like this type, and it goes all the way to the bottom.
But across,
Does it go all the way around the 5 acres?
I guess I should say this, we run right into a river. So it covers our area, our 5 acres in both areas, and then the river runs right through here. So is it in a big circle? No. Is it in the confined area that we could section off? Yes. Is our grow site in any way touching the water, the river? No. It's actually confined, and it is enclosed all the way around.
And this wooden fence was built when?
As soon as we bought the property.
Would you
So
like to
I
give
bought
me a
it
date-
in.
dates, please?
Yes, so I received it, I would say mid-May and May,
Of what year?
2016,
16.
yes.
Can you show the slides, July?
no, think about, was it May 2016 that you got this
May.
property?
Can
Because-
I focus on this?
It's May 10th, 2016.
Hold on one second, let's do
It's-
one thing at a time here. Okay, so,
This is a slide that,
Oh, it's on a slope. Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know who took it. Code compliance, it's a satellite shot, I don't know what it is. Sheriff's, okay. And in the upper right, there appears to be a car through what I would call an automobile gate and a wooden fence, what appears to be a wooden fence. Is that the wooden fence you're talking about that goes
goes
around the
that-
property?
Yes, it goes that way, and it also extends out to the other side. I don't think you can see it, but it actually goes all the way down to the other side. You can see it
Jen,
better
could you
in this
hand her the
picture.
pointer, and could she point on the slide where the fence goes?
talk in the camera so that we can,
You have to talk into the mic still.
you have to do it from long distance. Good job, thank you.
So, yes, I have a fence right here, and it goes all the way down. It goes like into here, and then we have more of this material covering the rest of it going downwards. And then we have it also, since right here, this way as well, until we can't see it no more. And then we also have this barbed wire around it. So we have it in both directions of the wood.
On the very corner, right down here where it shows your grow, on the very bottom portion of the picture.
Next slide.
There's fencing over here too?
Fencing, yes, this whole area is fenced in right here.
Was it fenced in when code compliance
Yes.
was there?
That's the reason, one of the reasons that Thomas had asked to do that was because he said, it could be mistaken in getting too close to the water, and animals can get in, and children, and that's the whole reason he had us fence it completely up and seal it in that way. We thought it was secure enough, and I continued to check with him to see if he thought it was secure enough. Unfortunately, I didn't hear back.
But when he was there, you had the entire perimeter fenced. He wanted a second interior fence. Is that what I'm correctly understanding?
That is correct.
Okay, and the outside perimeter fence was secured all the way around at 6 feet height?
We didn't walk the whole thing,
No, but
but it was, we did build that way before. In fact, we didn't do another fence or touch another fence until it was that second fence. So the
Okay.
one fence was, the one fence was built one time, and that was the wooden, and then the chicken barbed wire, which is when he said we need a smaller, more.
But that fence went down to the river, but then
Down.
you counted on the river,
Yes.
the natural terrain to be
Yes.
that boundary. So
Yes.
that was
And
not
I-
fenced.
And he walked it with me, and I asked him if he wanted to go further down, and that's when he opts to do that and said, let's just do a second fence and let's enclose it and let's have it a little bit tighter.
so he never went to the bottom and seen that the fence did go all the way around?
He didn't want to go all the way. I asked if he wanted to walk the whole thing, and from looking at it, he said, okay.
Okay, so
It's sectioned off.
just so the commissioners are clear here, Commissioner Laddish thinks that the fence goes to the water and stops, it's not closed. I'm thinking it goes down and you're saying it's closed. Which is it? The water is where it stops, or is
Oh,
it
perfect.
enclosed?
I'm glad that you said that, yes. So it goes all the way down to where it's not closed, right? And then the second fence that's inside is closed up, where the water is not touching it anymore.
Was it closed when Thomas was at your property?
No, that's the
That's
reason he asked for.
that's the answer I was looking for.
Wait, I'm sorry, did you mean the,
I kept asking you if you, when you bought the property and you originally fenced it, was it a closed perimeter? And you're saying that it goes to the water, it's not closed.
and that's the reason he asked for us to have the second fence, which was all closed.
Okay.
And he could actually physically see it
So the
closed.
reason he told you to build a closed fence is because the first fence was not a closed scenario.
Because it went right into the river
That's
and it
all.
was
I
open.
needed
Yes.
clarity on that. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sorry, I'm
Got
so
it.
sorry.
Got it. Okay.
Not wanting to keep on pounding on this one, but I'm still concerned. The previous slide, June 28th, does that show the interior fence?
No, I don't think that's a good picture of it.
Where is this?
So,
I've never seen a
the-
picture of the interior fence, I
guess
don't
should
think.
say- This is the trailer here? Is that what that is? Yes. Okay, so the fence is,
That's the wooden one.
That's the way it
yes, and it goes all the way around, and then right here where you see all of this goes,
All right,
where
but
it ends, it continues with the chicken, with the other
but then you
material.
talked about an interior
All the way
fence.
straight down, yes, and it goes all the way straight down till, to the water where it stops.
Where is the interior fence?
And then the
This-
interior one is right in this section, and it's actually fenced off so that it doesn't go into the water, and that's just here.
We don't see it.
Sure doesn't show up on this June picture.
Could
Is
we
there
see
another
the-
picture that might show fencing
See
there?
the sheriff?
Yeah, do you have a question?
You can kind of make out the gate and the fencing at the top of the cultivation area, although it's not clear from that altitude if it goes around the entire grow or not.
you said you submitted pictures on the 27th that show that it fences it all the way around?
I submitted the pictures that I have in here about it being put up and it being up.
And then that's the email that didn't show up to Thomas. That's where the photos were that showed on the 27th. You worked all weekend and Monday and finished it.
And that was the follow-up, the reason I was following up again and again, and every time I came in, was my obsession that I didn't.
Okay, when I look at the email trail that you provided, and I'm reading between, these do not show who emailed to from nothing.
Yes. These were actually private notes. This is what I had forwarded over to Miguel in explanation of what was going on so that he could kind of grasp it a little bit better. And these were ideas when I
This is after your denial that you sent
right
this?
after my denial. Yes.
Okay, okay, so I guess the burden of proof is on you, and so we're looking for proof. We're not getting what we need. That's,
Okay.
I just want to be clear about
Okay.
this. So, on March 27th, you've stated multiple times, you sent an email to Thomas with photos. Did you provide us a copy of your sent email? Even though he says he never got it, in your sent files of your emails, we should be able to see record of that email. Did you print that for us?
That was what I had forwarded over, and it's in here. It's on page, well, I put number 18, but this is the actual email that I forwarded over where it says from Minerva to Thomas, Monday, March 27th. I numbered mine, it's number 18, I don't know if I have it.
It says re, it doesn't say forward. Okay, so
It was so far, yeah. Yeah, this is the one that I had forwarded over, and this is the one that Ben printed out for me and added into my file when I said where this email went and if it was lost or why it wasn't included.
Okay, so all this email is doing on March 27th from you to Thomas Watts. Below are some pictures of the requirements that needed to be corrected. Address marker, permit posting, fence, and locks. Please let me know when you want to reschedule. March 23rd, okay, that goes backwards. And you got no response to March 27th.
Yeah, this is the email that was acknowledged or part of my file.
And those photos, okay, so I'm having a hard time with this email that you're saying that you forwarded to him, because first of all, it doesn't show that it was forwarded, it says re. Second of all, I'm not seeing where there's an attachment in these email comments. So if this is saying to me, here are some pictures of the requirements, but I don't see pictures, I don't see attachments, I don't see where it's forwarded, I see where it's an origination of an email. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do, but that is the email that I forwarded. That was the communication we were going back and forth. It was, just trying to see,
I guess my question is, how do I know photos were attached to this, and how do I know
Oh,
what photos were
here we go.
attached to it? Okay.
So if you keep going down, I'm sorry, I was lost because I had forwarded this over to Ben. Ben printed it out for me, included it in here. And
Okay.
then if you actually go to the next page,
There shows
this
seven
goes on
attachments.
and it's kind of like a trail of our email.
Mhm.
And then on the bottom, which would be the last page.
5 of
what was
5.
included, yeah, he attached the pictures.
Okay. So those are the attachments.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And on that, you put up a new address marker, or did you do that back in June?
I did these all in March,
So
the pictures that are submitted in
you
here.
got an address marker, you did your permit posting, you closed in the fence, and you added locks.
Yes.
And you submitted the photos, and you thought you were clear until you got a denial letter.
Yes, and I continued to move forward as if I was cleared because I wanted to just make sure I didn't fall in any other areas.
Can you bring back up her phone logs, please?
on the 23rd. We did have some kind of interaction on the 27th when I submitted it in. It was also around the time of when I had previously before actually got a hold of him. So on March 23rd, I was able to get a hold of him around 4:12, which is when he said he would be in the office and on the phone and able to be right in front of this. And so I did the same on the 27th, and then the 28th, the 29th I came in, and then the 3rd I called again.
Who did you talk to on the 29th?
I didn't talk to
You
anyone.
physically went in the
I
office?
physically came in, and it
Where
was,
did you go? Code compliance or planning?
Planning department. And when I got there, the doors were already shut. And then the next day, I went home and I looked at the news, to find out what was going on, and sure enough, it said blackout.
Oh, you,
There was
okay,
a
I
huge
remember that
blackout,
part,
and
okay.
and on top of that, the weather was horrible that day, yes, and
So, question for you. No? You went down there, but nobody was there, so you didn't see anybody. On the email that was printed for March 27th, somebody from, she's saying planning printed that?
Yes, we did not receive the March 27th email until the appellant submitted it because code compliance never got it.
Okay, but she was able to bring an email in to you that had 7 attached photos to it.
That is a part of the partially complete October 3rd email that was sent to Miguel. Those attachments were included with that, is my understanding.
Who looked at the March 27th email? Could they have clicked on those pictures and seen what the attachments were?
It's hard to say. I think it was Miguel. He is the one who gave me all of the pictures, the email, when the appeal was filed.
So are
and this
these
is weird
attachments in
because
here?
that was not included in the appeal when I went in. So when I filed for the appeal, Ben saying he received that email, yet when I went in and I asked if those documents were included in the email, they were not.
Now,
And-
what he's saying is that email wasn't given to him until October.
Right,
Okay, and at that time, it was Miguel, not Ben.
but it wasn't printed out even then, so it wasn't part, even though he just stated that they gave him that email as part of my case and for my appeal. Yet when I went in and I asked what was in my folder for my appeal, there was nothing in there. And that's when I went through with Ben and I re-forwarded that email and I asked him if he had received it. And I stood there, I actually sat there for a while and had him print it out and included in here
Okay.
today.
You have a question, Commissioner Vitale?
Yes, on this March 27th email, this is actually to staff. Can you guys check the email system right now and see if you actually got, or if Tom
That would be
received
an
it?
email to Officer Watts,
Yeah.
and I asked him if he had ever received it, and he did not. We didn't produce it for the file because, as far as we know, we never got it until October 3rd when the appellant submitted
I'm
it.
not asking what Mr. Watts said. I'm asking, does the system have that email in the chronological order, March 27th? Is it in there? It wouldn't go away, right? It's a received, should be in the inbox still?
Wouldn't be, because the March 27th email was not sent to us. It is allegedly sent to code compliance.
Mr. Watts?
Yeah.
It should be tracked down at some point if everything stays.
Can you guys
Okay,
check
I'm
in any way? Or?
Don't interrupt right now.
I mean, I don't know how you can fake an email date and time. Maybe you can. I don't know how you do it. This thing looks pretty convincing to me. And frankly, that's the first thing that's been convincing on the defense side.
Sorry.
But if, in fact, she sent this email on March 27th with these attachments, which is the next question, what are these photos? Are they the same ones we've seen? Or my hunch is they're probably different. I don't know.
My understanding is that the attachments are those black and white photos that were included.
Okay, so the black and white photos are the March 27th
Because
attachments.
those are maybe 4 of the attachments.
Whether or not they were attached to the March 27th email is unclear. It looks like they may have been an attachment to the October 3rd email. It's not clear what they were attached to. It is not until the end of that email chain that the attachments are noted, so it is hard to tell which email
When it was forwarded to you in October. Was it a forward from her email to you?
The emails I received from her was on October 25th
Okay.
of the October 3rd email, which she had originally sent to Miguel.
Now, why is there an October
Did
2nd?
Miguel say he didn't receive it either?
The October email?
Yeah.
No, he did. That's the partially complete October 3rd email that is in there. If you look at attachment 6, there are two versions of the email that explains that it was too cold to complete the fence. The first one in color was submitted on October 25th, and the partially complete one was the October 3rd email to Miguel.
So the issue that I'm having here is that this young lady is showing us an email from March 27th responding to code compliance with attachments, with photos, doing the corrections. She forwards them to the planning department on October 3rd after she finds out she's being denied. And then she forwards them again October 25th.
October 25th is when she came to the counter
Counter.
and sent them to me so I could print them out.
And they were not in the file from her October 3rd email.
They were, it was just unclear at that time what capacity they served.
Okay.
Because as the appeal letter said, there would be a rebuttal and supporting documentation. No
Okay.
rebuttal ever came, so I was not sure if they were actually a part of the appeal or not, but I did have them.
Okay. All right. I'm going to have you sit down. I'm going to go to public
Wait, I have one question.
Well, okay.
Can you clarify for me one more time, because I still, when did you purchase your property?
Oh, I can get you the exact date. I have it in my folder. It's April. I know I met the deadline. I came in and I made sure that that was it before purchasing anything, and I have it. I can look for it. I can give you the exact date. I do have my folder with me with mine.
I see the rough date, I don't need the exact dates.
It was in April.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I do have some questions. Looking at this first black and white photo that appears perhaps to have been attached to your March 27th email, that shows the lock on the gate, is that what that shows?
This one is the one with the lock. Is that the one
Okay.
you're looking at? Yes.
Correct. Okay, then the next one is a picture of a fence with a ruler.
That one was the one for, we were trying to show that it was 6 inches. Tall.
Okay, 6 feet.
6 feet, I'm sorry.
Okay, the wire looks like it's loose at the top. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do see that it's loose on the top.
And, well, it looks like it hasn't been stretched. Was it all stretched out at that point?
No, we had just actually put it up. So as soon as we were done, we were trying to catch some light so we can actually take pictures. So we had everything up and we were not stretching it out yet. We just kind of put it up, put the stakes up there, did as much as we could to comply with as much as we could at our end. And that was what we were able to provide.
And then you stretched it out
And
later?
we stretched it out. Oh yeah, now it's definitely, I can take better footage if I need to, anything, I don't know.
Okay, the third picture shows the 5624 numbers on
Yes,
a wooden board on a post, and that's the address?
yes, he
And
asked.
did you later change that?
Yes, so I did this, again, in rush, trying to comply and be within compliance. After this, I did have someone come out, who works with counties and was then told by him that it would be better if we did something like this.
And when was that?
So, this has been this was up immediately afterwards. I made the little thing, so in March again, it was all up in March. We put the signs up, I had him come out, look at it, make sure that it would be, if I had another site visit, which I was under the impression I was going to get a second site visit, it would be up.
Okay, the one I'm looking at in the black and white, that was sent with your March 27th email, correct?
Yeah, that one was up already.
Okay, now when was the second sign put up?
This was at the end of March. This one happened.
Within 4 days of when you sent the email?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We were putting everything up and trying to get compliance as much as we could, and I was trying to get as much as I could feedback from other people that do construction, and I had people come out and take a look at it and just say, okay, you need a sign here, and it needs to have, 10 miles an hour because they're going too fast here, and they were just kind of guiding us on what it looks like to look professional, the way you guys would wanted it. I was under the impression I was going to get a second visit to be able to speak to it, and that just wasn't the case.
Looking at the last picture in this series of 4 black and whites that apparently went with your March 27th email, it's pretty black, but it shows a little sign kind of in the center of it.
Yes.
Is that on a wooden signboard, or is it just on a post?
It was on a post here, and then I did move it over into a more, with the reflecting signs. I know you have this picture, I believe I sent it over.
Okay, so the one that's shown in the black and white doesn't have the reflective material, is that correct?
It doesn't.
Okay, when was the one put up that does have the reflective material?
It was all in March. It was all done that same time period when I'm trying to reach out to him and making sure that everything is to his likings. I even went back multiple times trying to contact him to just make sure that I was in compliance, that I had everything in. Everything has been...
Which river are you talking about that borders the property?
I don't know what it's called.
It's going to be the flume going down the Murphy's Grade Road. That's the only river goes that direction.
Yeah, it's just a stream.
It's the flume.
Sorry?
The ditch?
It's like a ditch, yeah. Deer's the people.
Okay, that's all I have.
So, just for the record, her property closed escrow on 4/6/2016.
Thank you.
April 6, 2016.
So you had, the reason for the change in the address sign from the black and white picture was you had people come out and give you advice as to what?
Absolutely. I had sent in the email I sent Thomas. I asked if he would come back and visit my property. With that in mind, I definitely wasn't going to mess around. So I wanted to have experts come in and just kind of give me an evaluation on how to improve, if anything needed to be improved. And those were small recommendations that they made just based off just showing up, and it made a lot of sense.
Right.
I guess one more question. And nobody ever lived in the trailer?
No.
Thank you.
Do you use the well?
We do have a well, and I didn't know that it wasn't tested. In fact, when everything was sold to me, I did get the documents for the well, and I was told that everything was well to go with the well. When we moved into the area before having cultivated anything at all, we had a survey, a land survey, that also hadn't been done in the area, so we did that. And then immediately after that, we started the fencing. It was all just, everything was trying to make sure that we were complying to my full knowledge. And up to this point, definitely that's what I've done. I was very upset when I received the email just because it depicted me as a person as if I didn't even intend to or try to do anything, and I think that's the reason that I'm here today. It just
I have another
bothers me.
Going back to the email of March 27 and the
Yes.
list of attachments, I count 8 items on the attachments. And in the black and white photos, I think there's 4 of them.
Right.
What were the other 4 items?
I am also curious to know what they were. I'm going to say that I believe one of them was just the image of Calaveras County. Like when you open it up and you forward through email, the little image goes along with it. But I don't have the email in front of me to actually open up every single one and find out which ones are which.
Well, you have that email on your
I
system,
do.
correct?
I'm saying I don't have my computer in front of
And
me
you
where
didn't,
I,
and this is your date of hearing, and you didn't bring a, whoa.
I know. I brought the email and everything that was submitted in, and
So
I
a quick
thought.
question to staff, is the well an issue? It's not noted in the September 19th letter.
Not necessarily, it's just the only two permits on file for the property are a well and a septic, and never a final. It's-
We haven't cited her for that in the denial letter.
No, it's just in looking for permits for the trailer or the two hoop houses, those were the only two permits that were pulled.
And there was never a follow-up visit,
No,
inspection?
And when did the hoop houses
They went up in June, and our intention was to
of
have.
2016?
Of 2017. Everything was this year. And the intention of having those up was to actually plant some land and get some good kind of area to do that. And we were planning to build 6 of them. We were able to do 2. We got the plan put on hold as of right now, and I'm debating on either taking them down completely. I don't want them to be a sore eye, or keeping them up and cultivating something differently in there. I just don't really know what we can do with our property at this moment. I know everything's up in the air in terms of the zoning and everything.
And you have not applied for permits for the hoop houses, is that correct?
Not yet. No, I have not. It is something that, based off this hearing, I'm either taking down or not.
Okay, can I go to public comment now? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Would anybody in the audience like to speak to this appeal? No. Okay. Seeing no public comment, I'm going to close the public portion of this hearing, bring it back to the commissioners to deliberate. No, not, oh. We have to, I'm sorry, this is just going on. Do you have any rebuttal?
only a couple things to add. The trailer could be used as a office if permitted. It still has not been. And I believe we covered the large wood fence issue, so that's it. Just trailer could be used, but at this point it's still unpermitted. And so long as it's not in dead storage, it's in violation of county code and the urgency ordinance.
How do we know it's not just being used for storage?
If it is capable of being inhabited, it is not in dead storage. The door was open and it has been on the property, used admittedly by the appellant as an office, so it is very capable of being inhabited, therefore not in dead storage.
Dead storage has a specific definition in the zoning code too. And I believe it has to be enclosed. Anyway, it wasn't in dead storage under the code. I also wanted to add that the photos were reportedly taken at night on the final day of the 10-day period, if I understood the testimony correctly. And the email that was reportedly sent on March 27th was sent at 4:13 p.m., which was still during daylight hours. So I don't know if they were taken on the final day and not date stamped, or if she's.
She said she finished on the 26th and then emailed on the 27th.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
And regardless of what was in the email or what was attached to it, the aerial photos show that the internal fence wasn't up in the middle of the summer in 2017. If you look at the sheriff's photo or the other aerials, there just wasn't a fence there. So I kind of find it hard to believe that it would have been possible to take photos of an internal metal fence in March, because it wasn't, unless it was taken down thereafter before the summer photos that were taken by the sheriff and the other aerials that Mr. Diamond put up.
Okay.
Well, there's been mention of dead storage. Where in the code say in a draft resolution or in the staff report, where is the requirement that a trailer not be dead storage?
That's just the only situation in which the trailer could be on the property without a permit.
Well, I'm looking at the code sections that have been cited. 17.95165L says whether or not there's a dwelling, there shall be no camping or sheltering in a vehicle. She says she didn't camp or shelter in the vehicle. And then I'm looking at 17.95.165N14. It says one recreational vehicle can be used as a temporary residence, and the parcel to be registered, etc. She's saying it wasn't used as a temporary residence. So where's the violation here? I'm assuming it's capable of being used, all right? This code doesn't say it's a violation if it's capable of being used, as I read it.
And there's no mention of it in the inspection by Mr. Watts, is there? I don't see it.
No, there's not.
It was not included in the inspection because it was not on the property at the time of the inspection.
It wasn't there at that time?
No.
Yeah, planning staff independently made that determination. And,
Just the aerial photos then, later, in
Yeah.
June or whatever it was.
17.04.170 deals with dead storage of mobile homes or recreational vehicles on private property. And it,
I have that section up if you're looking for it, Ethan.
yeah, yours is probably easier to read.
Yeah. It says a mobile home shall not be kept in dead storage on any property except under the terms of subsection C or D. C, a mobile home may be placed in dead storage in a C2, M1, or M2 district, provided that the parcel on which the mobile home is stored has a business license issued for and is developed in compliance with this title for one of the following land uses: warehouse, mini storage yards, and 2, mobile home sales. And then D, a mobile home may be kept in dead storage in a mobile home park permitted under the provisions of this title. This is under the provisions of 17.04.170, dead storage of mobile homes and recreational vehicles.
Every yard in this county has a trailer in it. I'm just sitting here going, this is nuts. I'm sorry, but
Can we get off
And,
this
and,
subject?
and the concern, I think, is not that they were camping on it, but they, it's an unpermitted use on the property. They're not in compliance with the zoning code provisions that a RV or mobile home is used on the property without a permit.
that makes more sense. Saying it like
No,
that.
but where does it say she has to have a permit to have a trailer on her property to use as an office? Or to put papers in?
Just, we're gonna give you rebuttal. You are gonna get a chance. You're okay.
Because I don't see it in the staff report. I don't see it in the resolution. And as far as I can tell, she was never cited for it because it wasn't there.
Well, the original citation, original denial was not based on it because that took place, or we had discovered that after we denied the application. 17.04.130 addresses temporary use of a mobile home or trailer. And there's a number of uses in which a trailer or mobile home can be placed on a piece of property. If there is a permitted residence while building, you can live in a trailer while you're building. It can be used as a classroom, and it can be used as a caretaker facility.
Well, it's kind of, okay, it's a little bit bothersome if she was told it could be used as an office.
But if it wasn't there when Tom went out, he wouldn't have had an opportunity to tell her that.
Okay, so we're going to bring her back up so that she can do her rebuttal, because...
One more question of the county. Looking through the resolution, I don't see anything about the hoop houses in there. We're not,
No, it's
that's
not
They're
not a-
permitted. They're permitted.
No, they're not.
I don't
I
think
thought
they're-
he said...
Permitted,
Oh, I thought you said permitted.
no.
Okay.
Okay, so they're not before us.
No, it was unclear whether or not those would be added as additional grounds for denial. They certainly could be, but it wasn't noted until after the packet had been published.
Okay.
Okay.
So the trailer would have never been purchased if, when Thomas first showed up in my area, we had nothing there, and I had no trailer, nothing, and I asked him specifically, what can I bring? Could it be a tent? Could it be, and he said an RV could be used as an office. And that was the only reason we went out and purchased one after the fact. And that was the whole purpose of the RV, and it was through their recommendations of compliance that we thought we were fulfilling and doing our diligent work to make sure that we were up to date. And he said you wouldn't have to register it. It can be used as an office. You have an address you go home to. You are not using the septic tank inside the trailer. Make sure you don't have anything running. And sure enough, we don't have anything. We don't have the septic tank hooked up because we don't use it. We have a porta potty that we use. And that's all in compliance of people that can use the facilities while they're there, not to sleep.
So you built hoop houses after your inspection?
Yes, I did.
No permits?
So that was what I had come in because I had the 2 poop houses. I wanted a total of 6, and our project kind of got put on hold, and that's where I'm at today, where I'm either going to take them down because they were money and either not have them up or finish my project and have all of them up and register all of them with the site plan, illustrating all of them. When I went into the planning commission and I asked about the project that I wanted to do, which was multiple, they said they would need a site map with all of them on there and actually showing everything that I wanted to do in terms of the hoop houses, that it wouldn't be like I would come in and pay for one and then leave and then come in and pay for another. They want to see the map made up with the full plan.
Okay, so you went in to see about doing the hoop houses, and that's
Yes.
when you found out about your denial? Or?
No, I went in to see about the hoop houses in one of the multiple times that I've come in. So
Oh,
through
okay.
June, yeah, and when we were building it, I asked if it would be feasible for me to come in and pay for them one-on-one, and they said that that would mean that the site map would continue to change. And what they wanted was for me to have an accurate idea of what I wanted, have them set up, have an accurate site plan, and submit that in versus going in every time a new one was built and set up.
Okay. Do you have anything else you want to rebuttal with the conversations?
No, I just want to close up with the fact that I plan to be very compliant. I want to do whatever I can to justify anything that needs to be justified, and definitely if the hoop houses would be number one, and anything else, I'm okay with having another site visit and having any kind of information, anything else that would rather be given to me, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I've got one more question.
Yes.
You may have covered this already, but did you say that you eradicated all the plants?
As of right now, we've cleaned out everything. I didn't want to have anything that was going to be compliant. I am very high on my compliance, and I'm a mom, and I don't plan to jeopardize any of it, so.
And you did that after you got the denial letter?
Yes, I did that after I got the denial letter. Due to the denial letter, of course, I go into the planning department. When I saw Miguel, that was one of the questions I had asked, and I did tell them that I'm not planning to break any rules. In fact, I want to work with them, if anything.
And there are no plants in the hoop house either?
At this moment, I have nothing going on. We wanted to get some new stuff going, but I'm not going to risk anything
What I want to do is just get right.
When did you do the harvest this year?
Late. It was really bad this year. It
After
was late
September.
because I didn't want to have anything up while the inspection went on because I wanted to make sure that the fencing was correct. So that was in March, April. They probably didn't go in until like May. I
Question
didn't
is,
get.
when did you harvest this year?
We eradicated everything. What is it? September, early September. As soon as I got the notice.
When you say eradicate, what do you mean?
I mean, we pulled them out. I said I don't
You
want to be.
destroyed them?
Yeah, I have a whole bag full of debris and, just that we took out. I didn't know what the eradication looked like here, and now I'm being told that it's a matter of time, and I will be notified of that. I assumed that with the denial letter, that's what that meant.
You pulled the plants and you still have them?
We have a big section that's all dirt, all dead, everything that's dead.
Compost.
I can take pictures, we can burn it, I can do whatever you need for that.
Okay. Any more questions?
No.
Okay. So we're going to close the public hearing now. We're going to bring it back to the commissioners, and I have a commissioner that wants to take a break, so we're going to call a 10-minute break, and we'll be right back to deliberate and make a decision.
Thank you.
Make it. We were waiting for nothing. We're ready to roll. Let's start deliberations. We got a couple more hearings to go, so let's do this. Would you like to start?
I will.
Okay, thank you.
I think in large part, this appeal hinges on that March 27th email. It's confusing as to why that was not received. I'm not sure I understand why it lists 8 attachments and what they might have been. But it makes sense for her to have sent an email like that, and it makes sense for her to have attached those 4 pictures that apparently went along with it. And the content of those photos seems to verify the timing of when she sent it. Pictures being taken on the 26th. I mean, when you look at that fence that's not stretched, but was later, it makes sense that she would have taken a picture once she got it up, but didn't have time to stretch it, to try to show compliance with the urgency ordinance and with the inspection report that she received. The fencing doesn't show up on the aerials, but I don't think that's surprising because it's going to be a steel post and a wire fence, and there's a lot of trees there. So that seems credible to me. On the posting, there was a picture of a posting sent with the March 27th email. You can't tell from that photo whether it was compliant with the urgency ordinance, but she does have a photo that shows that it now is. She says that was done by the end of March. That seems like a bit of a stretch, but that's what the testimony is. And as respects the trailer, I'm not seeing a violation of the urgency ordinance sections that are cited in either the denial letter of September 19th or the staff report or the draft resolution, assuming her testimony that no one used the trailer for camping or sheltering or as a residence is credited, and I think she is credible on that point. And so, given what's been presented, I'm inclined to vote in favor of granting this appeal.
I agree with some of what Mr. Wooster said. I agree that these pictures were probably sent in on the 27th, although they were not received by code compliance. But they're still not in compliance. The address marking was still wrong. The first photo that they showed where there was empty poles in the back, yes, it looks like she was building the fence. I don't know if she ever completed the fence. I have a whole issue with that. And then I have issues with these hoop houses that she put up after the code inspection was there. I know that they're not in our resolution, but she's got hoop houses up, so it almost looks like she was playing games. So, I'm gonna follow the planning department's and deny it.
As Commissioner Wooster said, the specifics of the resolution, where I'm looking at the denial letter itself, the 4 items quoted. First one is failure to meet screening or fencing. I couldn't see it in the aerials, but after listening to her testimony, I do think the fencing was there. And part of this situation is this thing we keep getting, or at least I think we keep getting, where code compliance allows people to come into compliance after the fact, or at least implies that. I suppose there's an argument from the county that it wasn't there back in May, June, or September of the previous year, but that doesn't seem to be the argument. Failure to meet posting standards, a little ambiguous on that. I really wish Mr. Watts was here to testify. That's the problem I've got. In that March, 27th email, I really would like to see him get into his email system and tell us, did he or did he not get it? Maybe he simply didn't see it, or maybe it went to spam or something. I've had that actually happen. Looking at what she sent, I don't know how she could have faked it. It looks like, unless, the only possible explanation, I guess, is if she hit send and it didn't send, but it's still in her sent basket or something like that. It's just, I guess what I'm saying is I think on the evidentiary level, she has met her burden. And now it's the county's job to have Mr. Watts testify and prove otherwise. I don't like that situation. I don't like it not because it's against the applicant or the appellant, but I just, yeah, he needs training. And I'm going to have to uphold that appeal.
Well, for the reasons given by Commissioners Wooster and Bocelli, I agree. I find it, I find this to be a very hard case, but from personal experience, I know we have received emails and then they've disappeared. And I haven't the slightest idea what happened to them. We've never been able to find them. So I know that happens. It's not necessarily the county mishandled it or anything. So I accept the appellant's version of the email and her struggles to get the compliance made. I am concerned about the hoop houses, but they're not officially before us. I do think that the applicant ought to talk right away with the Planning Commission. It sounds to me as if she understands that the county is saying, well, you don't have to deal with this until you have all 4 of them laid out as to where you want them and such. And I think there's a misunderstanding there. So I don't think the applicant should go home and say, well, that's fine, and we're home free. I think the hoop house is a very serious question that needs to be resolved immediately with the county. But as far as this appeal goes, I'm prepared to uphold the appeal.
Well, I don't have an issue with the hoop houses only because she brought herself into the county and discussed it. She didn't just put up a hoop house and pretend it wasn't there. When I specifically asked the question, did you put up those hoop houses after your inspection thinking she's free and clear and got away with something? But she had an immediate answer that she came into the county and they told her to make up a site map. So I'm not going to have an issue with that one. The RV, as far as being there for living, I believe that she complied with the fact that she proved it wasn't there for living because she brought a porta potty to the property that she's having to pay for to be there, which tells me nobody's living in that trailer. Otherwise, why would she have a porta potty? She could be using the trailer and they pay somebody to pump it right out of the trailer because that's what others have done that got a permit. as far as the statements on the March 27th email, I believe that email exists. I believe it's real. I've seen it. I read through again on Thomas's email, or his statement, excuse me, it wasn't an email, his affidavit. And Thomas reflects everything that she submitted, and he says he spoke with her on the phone March 22nd and the 24th, and at no time after that did he speak with her. So if he had tried to call her on the 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, or the next month, and she knew that he had not had that email, I think the email would have been sent. But in her mind, the email was sent. The county, I looked at the email address over and over again to make sure it was correct, and it is. As far as I can tell, it looks right. So I'm actually going to uphold the appeal.
And I forgot to mention, and thank you for bringing up the trailer. I'm not having done independent research on all the county's statutes, whether this was a permitted use of that trailer. Might be a serious question. However, we have the situation, and I believe her version of this, that code compliance indicated to her that use as an office would be okay. And given our history on some of the other occasions, I think that's an alternative ground for the use of the trailer. In case we come up with another case where there's the same sort of use and we find the county code that actually prohibits it.
I would definitely be looking into permitting trailers in Hoop Houses immediately, but that's okay. So if we are going to do this, it obviously pulls that direction. What do you want to do with the resolution? Bring it back on another day as a consent?
Yes, I would recommend that you make a motion to grant the appeal, directing staff to return with a revised resolution on a subsequent meeting.
And do we need to take a formal?
Yes, I would
take
motion and a
formal
second and a
so
vote
that
on that.
Then it can be on a consent calendar.
Yes.
Okay. So can I get somebody to make a motion to bring this back? Do we have a date certain on that?
Next year?
Let's see.
Right.
Not the 29th.
No.
Well, it would just be consent. Why
No,
not?
no. Nothing else.
Got all day.
Our next regularly scheduled meeting is December 13th.
Okay.
So.
14th. December 14th.
Oops, I'm looking at the wrong month.
Why can't we do it on the 29th?
I think we should do it on the 29th.
December, let's see, November 9th.
Peter, can we do it on the 29th as a consent? I mean, it's not like there's big discussion on it.
That's up to you.
I think we do it on the 29th.
Okay.
Yeah? Okay, we're all good on that. So can someone make a
I
motion?
move
Okay.
that we direct the staff to draft up a resolution that grants the appeal and that we bring it back on the consent calendar for November 29th. And
November.
And you need anything more in the motion right now? Is that we need, but that we will now take a formal vote on.
So the motion is to grant the appeal and direct staff to return with a revised resolution supporting that action on the 29th of
That's
November.
exactly what I had.
That's what I thought.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second?
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 4-1. Okay. Okay, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next item on the agenda. It's going to be item number 5. Ben, are you doing that one as well?
Yes, I am.
Wow. Okay. We're ready. Yes.
All right, this is Appeal 2016-542 by Cow Saley, appealing the denial of commercial medical cannabis cultivation registration application 2016-542 by the planning director. This application was denied because it was found to contain false or misleading information, which is grounds for invalidation under 1795-170A4. And since it was the photographic evidence that was found to be false or misleading information, the application failed to meet the photographic evidence requirements as set forth in Section 1795-165N3A or B, and it failed to meet the grading requirements by grading beyond the May 10th deadline set in 1795-165N7. In the appeal letter, two main assertions are made: that this denial was retroactive and that the application had been previously approved. That is not the case. The only previous action taken on this application was a denial, which was later rescinded. So it's possible that the applicant was confused by the letter rescinding that previous denial, or perhaps the business license application that was issued to them, although both of those contain pretty bold and obvious disclaimers that they did not constitute approval of the application. The second thing that the appeal letter raises is that all of the grounds for denial are based solely on staff's improper reliance on Google Earth historical imagery that staff incorrectly assumes shows the condition of the registered grow site on May 31st, 2016. It's unclear why this is made as a claim on account of multiple aerial images are cited in the denial letter and Google Earth is not mentioned once, and historical imagery in the context of aerial images refers to mosaics that are stitched together from aerial imagery taken by airplanes back prior to satellites that could take imagery. And we will cover that at length when we go over the aerial imagery. This site is located out at 4606 Harmony Lane in Avery, right above the Utica Ditch and the North Fork of the Stanislaus River, right up on the edge of the canyon. This is their revised plot plan. Their original plot plan had a outdoor cultivation area around here, which was found to be in violation of the setbacks, and they were informed to move it and give planning a revised plot plan, which they did. Something to keep in mind going forward is this hoop house here and the solar battery containing structure next to it. The photograph submitted with the application. First, we have one dated 4/27/16, which shows grading being done for the hoop houses, and the picture below it, taken 4/28/16, is that same pad. As you can see, the conduit going across here is right here and leads up into the little shed that contains the batteries and a water tank. So we know that this pad here was graded for the hoop houses. And then we have a photograph dated May 1st, 2016, which shows an array of smart pots arranged in the corner of the parcel going towards the canyon around some rocks, which this part of the parcel will become clearer as we look at aerial imagery. And then two pictures dated May 7th, 2016 that show numerous clones underneath an awning. The only context we have as to where this is located on the property is what we can see out the back of it, and in the top corner here, what appears to be some wood siding. The only place this combination of things being observed at once could be seen is behind the residence on the parcel, looking across the back in a lawn sort of area, and that would explain the harsh border with the bear clover seen here. Again, this will become somewhat clearer as we look at aerial imagery. And I apologize, you can't really make out the siding here in the scanned image, but in the photos submitted, it's pretty clear that that is wood siding. May 31st, after all of the pictures are allegedly taken, this is the parcel. There is no evidence that any of the activity described in the submitted photos has occurred. Here are the rocks that the smart pots were allegedly arranged around. There is no sign that any activity has taken place near there. Here is the place that the pads for the hoop houses will be, and here's the little solar structure. It's pretty obvious none of the grading has yet occurred. Additionally, if you refer back to the picture of the cannabis plants under the awning, the grass out the back of it was brown and dead. It's still very much alive and green in May. And just to address the issue of the dates, when looking at it, if you look at the date up here, the time slider, which is used to change the date when you're looking at different aerial images in Google Earth, that date is not always accurate. But if a date appears down here in what is called the status bar, that is the exact date that it was taken. And very often these pictures are acquired through Landsat, the USGS aerial imagery program, or Copernicus, the European Space Agency aerial imagery program. And in this case, this was taken via Landsat. However, it does not really matter whether or not the Google Earth image can be trusted date-wise, because all of the grounds for denial can be fully substantiated through the imagery that the county purchased. Here you can see where the hoop houses will be. GIS outlined them once they showed up and were able to measure them. This is June 10th as shown by the acquisition date. We can see there's been some activity down here where the grid of smart pots allegedly was on May 1st. It looks like someone's driven down there a couple times, but no evidence of smart pots being arranged. The grading for the hoop houses has not yet happened, and there's still no evidence that there was ever an awning out behind the house here. Then on June 21st, this aerial image acquired from the USDA Farm Service Agency, it shows the pads for the hoop houses are finally there, and there is some activity. It's hard to make out, but this shaded portion near the rocks appears to be a partial assembly of the smart pots shown. It looks like they were put out there prior to the 21st, and by the 21st they were already being removed. And you'll notice behind the dwelling on the parcel, there's the awning. If you looked out the back, you would see dead grass and a harsh border with the bare clover and the lawn area. And that would also explain the wood paneling that can be seen in the top corner of that photograph. Then on August 14th, 2016, as shown by the acquisition date, the hoop houses are finally on the parcel. An additional pad has been graded between the two that are there. There is an outdoor cultivation area here, and it looks like there has been slightly more activity in the area where the smart pots were allegedly on May 1st. And then September 3rd, 2016, there is another hoop house. And I'd just like to point out there's evidence that smart pots were in the corner of the parcel, but it does not seem that they were there on May 1st. And this is what Code Compliance saw when they went out for their first inspection. It's compliant as far as they know at this time. The fencing was okay, and they had said it was good to go. On June 2nd, 2017, some more activity has happened on the parcel. There is a considerable amount of soil amendments spread about here, a couple additional hoop houses down here, and an additional outdoor cultivation area here, which seems like it would likely be in violation of the setbacks, as that is the area that they were advised to move from previously and why they submitted the revised plot plan. And then June 28th, the outdoor cultivation area is about the same on this side. There's been slightly more earthwork done on the property, a little more clearing over here. This clearing was done as a repair for the septic on the property, which was finalized on June 6, 2017. And as you can see, there is some runoff from the cultivation area, causing a bit of growth here across the street leading down towards the canyon. And this is an August 22nd, 2017 photo taken by the sheriff's office. It didn't make it into the staff report, unfortunately, because it can take some time just to make sure that the address that the sheriff's office is giving us for the pictures is indeed the right one. A lot of grows look the same from the air and when you're flying by them quickly in an airplane, so we just take our time to make sure that they get into the right file. And here you can see the soil amendment still spread about. Doesn't appear any real erosion control is in place, and you can further see the runoff causing the growth as it goes down towards the canyon. The outdoor cultivation area here, if the second inspection is to be believed, it's 77 feet from here to this dwelling on the other neighboring parcel, so it seems likely that it's in violation of the setbacks because the property line likely happens before that neighboring dwelling. In summary, the photographs submitted with the application are directly contradicted by aerial imagery. It appears that the dates on the photos are not accurate and that most of what was shown in it happened in June. The application was submitted on June 17th. The grading for the hoop houses is not visible in the June 10th aerial image, so it seems apparent that the grading for establishing the grow site was not done until 7 days after June 10th, and by June 21st, the 2 pads are done, and the 3rd pad for the other hoop house is still in process. So the grading certainly happened after May 10th in 2016 to establish the site, and earth movement on the parcel continued through 2017.
So, on the Google Earth question, if all we had was the May 31st, all these questions would be very pertinent. Your sentence on page 4 of your staff report, right above the last paragraph, where you say historical imagery in this context refers to images taken via airplane or early satellites, et cetera, et cetera. In the context of Google Earth, isn't the term historical imagery used to designate anything prior to the present?
For Google Earth, perhaps, but in aerial imagery in general, if you use the term historical imagery, that's generally referring to pre-satellite.
Okay, but Google Earth itself, if that narrow context,
then
that's what.
anything in the past, potentially.
Okay, and the slider, would you go to the May 31st? Now, when I use Google Earth, and I'm doing the slider, the date changes down in the at the bottom. I forgot what that's called. Status.
The status bar.
Status bar. And I presume that means that's going to show me the dates where they actually have pictures of this property. But you can slide up and top. At one point, I got the impression from your from your staff report, it says that it was not acquired from the time slider.
The time slider, of course, being this, what you use to change the date. The status bar here shows...
How did you get the picture with that date on it without using the time slider?
The time slider is how you change the date you're looking at. It is not always the exact same date as the date given in the status bar.
How did you get this picture
I pressed print screen on the computer and took a screenshot
How did
of
you
it.
get the screen?
I used the time slider, which
Oh, okay.
approximates the date, but when it appears in the status bar, that is the exact date that image was taken.
Now, we've been presented with some indications that if it's the last day of a month, why, it just means it was taken sometime during that month?
If the only date available is the last date of the month given on the time slider, then yes, it is unclear exactly the date that it is taken.
Did you see any other dates in May appear?
No, the only date given was 5/31/17, which is confirmed on, or 16 rather, which is confirmed on the status bar, which means 5/31/16 is when that image was taken.
Oh, okay, I think we're okay. I'm not gonna take too much more time, but since we've been relying upon Google Earth in the past, I thought you were agreeing that if it said 5/31 in Google Earth, why, it might be some other time during that month.
The case that that's referring to is when the only date available is the last date of the month, and that is the date given on this, and no date is given on the status bar. If that's the case...
Well, if no date is given on the
yes,
status bar.
if there's no date on the status bar, then it is unclear when the image was actually taken, but when there is, that is the date that image was collected.
Okay, so, but basically you're saying, we don't need this picture, because we have later pictures showing that there still hasn't been grading. And those later pictures are not Google Earth pictures.
They are not.
Okay, then anybody have any other questions? Would you like to hear from the appellant? Okay. Could you come on up, please? Thank you. Thank you for your patience today.
Thank you for yours. I know everyone's tired here, so we'll try and get through this quickly. Well, for one, I don't see a date on the time slider there on the Google image, so at least the research I did, Google Earth has help sections, and it says, experts, and they say, no, the dates on Google Earth are not necessarily the dates that the photos were taken. They could be the date that it was acquired by Google Earth. It could be any number of dates, but that's, I think, less what you're interested in is, was there, in fact, grading done, prior to the 10th of May 2016? The answer is yes. I mean, there was actually very minimal grading that was done. There are pictures in your packet where basically the brush and the cover was scraped. Large amounts of rock were then spread out at a later time. What we can tell you is that the property, he was there under a lease option and then purchased the property, entered into a contract on May 1st. They removed all of the smart pots, and that's shown in the aerial photo, or the photos from June 10th. Those were removed. The carport, which is shown in the picture, all of that was removed because the appraiser was coming out. They didn't want to jeopardize the ability to get the financing to get the property, so they took everything out, and the photos from later on is when they simply spread lots of gravel over it. There was actually very little dirt that was moved. It was just scraping off the brush. That was then raked out right after, at the very beginning of May, after the grading that had been done at the very end of April, because they wanted to get the property. They decided, the county is now, putting a program in place. They wanted to come and, invest in this community and be part of it, and continue to farm here. And so they cleaned everything out. After that, they did get the sign-offs from all county departments, including planning. It wasn't based on the prior denial that was then rescinded after the first appeal was filed, and then the director withdrew it, and that's on the second to last page of your packet. And Gowdy, please, I mean, he's the one who knows exactly what happened on that property. temporary carport was removed, and they raked it out to try and make it look as natural as they could prior to the appraisers coming in order to get the financing. A couple of other things, and I would direct you to, he asserts that that's the date that it was taken. I can also tell you that other government agencies don't allow Google Earth to be used when they're creating an administrative record for precisely that reason. Google has said that these dates are not necessarily accurate and you need to go back to the provider. That was not done. There is no metadata that was provided. And so I did include a copy of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service policy. Obviously, that's not something that the county has necessarily adopted, but I think it is something that responsible government agencies, when the very source says this, you can't rely on these dates, don't rely on these dates. And I think that is, a problem. Now, obviously, you'll decide if it's, if that is adequate. The subsequent photos show, yes, the hoop houses went in after the gravel was spread. The photos that the applicant provided from the very end of April, and I think it was the 27th and 28th. That is hardly that was literally just scraping the very surface off. We're not talking 50 yards, we're not even talking 20 yards worth of dirt that was removed. It was just to scrape that very top layer off and then spread gravel. Subsequent inspections at the site show that they're not perfectly level. That is, in fact, sloped, and the drainage that was shown, I don't see not that picture, but another was natural runoff. That was not runoff from the plants.
The runoff was just runoff from we had a terrible winter, runoff from just the rain, the runoff. So as you can tell, the soil, it's not, that's just done by tractor work. The soil is just there for amendment and mixing. All of the gravel has been done by hand after the date, but it wasn't graded. All the grading has been done prior to May 10th.
Ready for questions?
Please, fire away.
Okay, so the pictures that we received that are dated April 27th and April 28th, the date stamp on those. One showing a machine that's at least scraping the surface.
Yeah.
And then, but figure 2 is going past a building, and I don't see exactly where that should be on, say, if you go to the June 10th picture. Where is that figure? Where's the building that this figure 2 is showing?
Can you show that?
Okay, is that the one that we see the roof in the picture, June 10th, or is it?
House, and it's right there. It's the battery house.
Okay.
For the solar.
And so that grading was where that outline is of or that, whatever you want to call it, the ground preparation, is where the outline for the hoop house is showing.
Yes.
That June 10th picture looks a lot less scraped than the figure 2 picture.
Yes, that's where they all of the debris on the right-hand side, they went and they raked that out.
Well, the debris is one thing, but the scraped land is another, and I just, I have a hard time, while we're at it, let's figure out where the figure 1 picture was taken. Yeah, the upper one there.
That's right here.
Okay. I have a hard time seeing that the land has been even scraped in the June 10th picture. And by the way, I assume that you don't have any problem with the authenticity of the date on the June 10th picture, since it's not Google Earth.
I mean, I have no idea where it came from. I mean,
showing that we didn't have any pots there, but as you can see in this picture, there are tire marks. that we put
Could you
down.
get closer to the microphone, please?
No, it was said that we didn't have any, we put pots here, later than the date, but it shows tire marks that we had came down to this area and removed all those pots prior to us after us going to escrow on May 1st. After we went into escrow, we removed all of the pots and temporary tents that were here in preparation for the appraiser to come to appraise the property in order for us to get the loan for the property.
Yeah, they thought if they came and they saw that they were marijuana plants there, they would be fine.
So I'm not clear on the appraiser. What are we talking
That
about?
was the reason for removing the
I
pots
understand.
and the carport.
But this is what appraiser doing this?
A title appraiser for a loan
Okay.
company appraiser.
And you were afraid that you wouldn't get the
We
loan?
wouldn't get the loan,
If you
from
had-
right.
There's a little damned if you do, damned if you don't in this, isn't it?
Very much so in this industry.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes, if you look at figure 3 of the photos you submitted dated 5/1/2016, it's hard for me to tell from the photo, but has that land been graded or cleared?
No, we sat the smart pots directly on top of the soil, the ground.
So it looks like I'm looking at bare dirt, is that not correct?
Yeah, it's dry, it's dirt. We just sat them on top of it in smart pots.
I'm sorry.
That's it.
Since it's the applicant that has the burden of proof here, what is your proof that as of May 10th, those prior pictures were actually taken before that? In other words, do you have any aerial photographs that you feel are valid that actually show that land scrapage, whatever we want to call it, before May 10th?
No, we do not have any aerial footage ourselves. Yeah, we didn't know that we needed to have aerial footage at the time.
No, I know you didn't at that time, but you could now
No.
go online and purchase them, I assume.
The ones that we found online were, same thing. Google Earth, it was the same images.
Well,
Google Earth and I did the time slide and found those same.
But I understand why your argument that we shouldn't rely on Google Earth, but we have other photographs, such as the one from June 10th, that's from not Google Earth, but AOI outlines.
Our work began after on June 10th. Later that day, as escrow closed, we were instructed by our selling buyer's agent to not do any property until the property closed, not to do any work on the property until escrow closes. So as escrow closed June 9th, on the 10th, we got the key. And we already had the key prior to that, but we didn't until the escrow finally closes. That's when we went in and started doing laying the gravel down and constructing our greenhouses.
Well, that's the whole point here, though, is if you hadn't moved
We
earth
moved-
before then.
But the scraping of the dirt occurred prior to that.
So did you have a lease agreement?
Yes, we have a lease agreement, and it was included in the packet with, when we submitted our application to the county.
So planning should have that in the file.
On this picture they're showing right here, you knocked down all the grass and then put the smart pots on top of it?
Yes.
And how long was it all knocked down before you put those pots on there?
It was a couple of days before we had knocked it down, and then we put it was just soil and smart pots, no plants were in there.
My question is because the grass there looks dead.
Yeah, we
And
were walking
May,
around
it's still
today.
green.
We were walking around. It took a couple of men to help us put the soil on the pots on top of that. You can see it's roughly about 100 or 150 smart pots.
And are you saying that grass was cut and people walking on it and such, it's turned
Yes.
brown, dry?
Yes.
You driving on the track?
The points made in the status report from or staff report from planning, and also been made here today, that the status bar that runs along the bottom right of the Google Earth window does give the exact date that the image was acquired, if it's available, and if it's not available, there's no date there. What's your position on that?
I mean, I'm not a satellite imagery expert by any means, but what I was able to find out, by going to the Google site and the help section and the forums, the expert forums, was what I included in the packet, which is they say, no, none of those dates are terribly reliable, and Google Earth also says, go to the original provider, because they do get images from multiple sources, and eventually piece them together to make it a cloud-based image and to be able to zoom around the way you can. It's designed to be sort of user-friendly, and that when, that date may or may not reflect the date that the image was taken, and that it may in fact be the date that it was acquired, because they acquire these images from multiple providers. And so as I sit here, I can look at any Google image and I couldn't tell you if the date in the corner is in fact the exact date the image was taken or not. They say, no, go back to the original provider to find that.
But if, as you suggest, that if it's the end of the month, why it's just taken sometime during that month, if that is showing that at least in the month of May, no grading had occurred, no earth moving had occurred. And so no matter what day in May that is, your photographs are supposedly from April. So
From last days in April. Well, what it says is it could be, the stamp on does not, from which they got the picture, the provider of the imagery, but not the date when it was taken. That was in response to how accurate is the Google Earth timestamp, and then there were 4 expert replies.
But there was, and as I understand it, expert is anybody that's made 4 replies in the past and nobody's blown them out of the water on
All
it.
I know is that that's what Google
That's what they're
claims
calling
are the experts.
Yeah.
So maybe it doesn't
I
take much
understand.
to become an expert.
But my point is, one of your sources said, well, if it's the last day of the month, it just means it was taken sometime during that month, and that doesn't help your case at all.
Well, one says it was taken sometime that month or sometime that year. I can't stand here and tell you that I have personal knowledge of how Google works. It's all magic for me.
We appreciate your bringing it up.
Does anybody have any other questions? No? Okay, can we go ahead and go to public comment, please? Thank you. Is there anybody in the public that would like to comment on this appeal? Thank you for signing in.
You're welcome. Hi, my name is Demetrius. I came down here to work on the farm as a grower. I came from Humboldt County, working on some farms up there the past 2 years, and coming to here, it's been a huge change, and I like to see everything you guys are doing. You guys are ahead of the curve, and you guys, seems like you have everything going on, and we're trying to do the same thing. We didn't do any grading on that. We laid rock. We spread a lot of rock. We had about 8 truckloads of rock come, and we did that all by hand. There's 6 of us that with shovels dumped rocks on our Ranger. We spread all that rock. We didn't do any grading on that.
we're trying to get involved in the community and to do what we can to better the area. We see an opportunity here to offer jobs. I love this community. I'm looking to come and buy a house here, so if she's a real estate agent, I'd like to come down.
That's not in your favor right now because I know that house and I know what it looked like in 2016, so keep going.
All right. But no, yeah, I just I'm happy to see what you guys are allowing, and we'd like to continue to do what we're doing. Give us opportunity to join this program, and we have, besides this, we've done everything we need to do. It seems every time someone comes out, they're impressed with how we do everything. We've had supervisors say, I'd like to bring our staff down here so we can show them. We had somebody tell them, I'm getting promoted next year to be doing surveying and come to the gardens, and I want to train people here. I'm happy to see how you guys are doing it. You're off-grid, you're solar, you're doing everything that we want. And so we're trying to make as little of an impact as possible. And we just would like to keep continuing gardening in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Okay, we'll close public comment, and do you have any rebuttal?
I do.
Okay.
This is very obviously grading. This is not spreading rock. This has very obviously not been done by hand. You can see there is a elevation change there where it was scraped down from where it was on level with the battery shed for the solar. And from the aerial imagery, even disregarding the May 1st image, it is very obvious that the grading had not occurred as late as June 10th on the property. Additionally, regarding the lease in this application, the title was not transferred until June 9th of 2016. Staff did not initially pay this very much mind on account of the prior lease being included in the application. However, last week on October 30th, having heard that this project had been denied and seeing the public notice, the previous landowner came to the counter of the planning department and asked to see the lease agreement, in which she said, "That is not how my name is spelt. It is one word, her last name, not Hardin space Brook. It is just Hardin Brook," and that she never signed that lease. So if this commission were to grant this appeal, some very serious concerns regarding the land ownership and consent have been raised regarding this application.
Did she give you anything in writing?
She signed a piece of paper in front of me. I asked her to give me a statement since that would carry more weight. Unfortunately, she is Sarah Hodson's neighbor and is somewhat dismayed by the effect of public comment during our hearing process.
So she is known. It's not like she's a stranger that came to the counter.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do you have any rebuttal?
Only that this is the first we've heard of this, that there was someone who wasn't willing to give a statement. And so other than it being hearsay, which this commission potentially can, you're not subject to the same rules of evidence as a courtroom, but it seems like that would have been included in the report.
Well, it would have missed the deadline to get into our report, so
Or at least
understandably.
the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Did anybody have any questions for the appellant? Or no?
Discussion?
Okay, I guess we'll close the public hearing and bring it back for discussion.
Well, putting aside what we just heard about the lease, I'm going to say exactly what I was going to say before that, in that here we have the proof of cultivation or preparation of cultivation before May 10th is shown in these pictures where there is what I would consider to be grading. which by itself is proof of preparation before May 10th. And I think just going to the June 10th aerial photograph that is not Google Earth, I see no evidence of that grading, even when they point out where those pictures were taken. And so I believe that those pictures were taken after May 10th, and I'm prepared to uphold the denial.
I don't need to say any more. I agree with the comments.
Okay.
Appears to have been graded after May 10th, for sure. I don't see any question about it.
I agree. Commissioner Wooster?
I agree.
Okay, I do as well. So, looks like we're going to uphold Planning Department.
Like a recommendation?
Yes, please.
Staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2017-093, thus denying 2016-542 appeal, thereby upholding the Planning Director's determination to deny application 2016-542.
Thank you.
Couple questions on the resolution before we vote. The first whereas clause says that the registration was received on June 28th. The staff report on page 1 said it was submitted on June 17th. Which one is correct?
That's a good catch.
June 28th.
Okay, second question is on page 2, under paragraph 2, evidence, the first sentence reads, the 5 photos submitted with the application depict cultivation and grading occurring on the subject parcel prior to May 10th, 2016. I think they actually don't. They purport to,
Yeah, I was going to suggest we put allegedly
or just
before depict.
purport to depict. Other than that, I think the resolution is in order.
And then I would change, however, these photos, I'd just say these allegations are directly contradicted.
Okay?
Joanne?
Okay.
No. Okay. Then can I get a motion to,
So moved as amended.
thank you, second?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Carries 5-0. Thank you. Would you like to read the appeal?
So this action is final unless appealed to the Board of Supervisors within 15 calendar days of today's date.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so we will move on to the last appeal of the day. And Ben, you're going to do that one as well? This is a good day for you.
Oh, yeah. Ready?
Yes.
All right, we have Appeal 2016-713 by Linda Dyken, appealing the denial of commercial medical cannabis cultivation registration 2016-713 by the Planning Director. On July 5th, 2016, Linda Dyken submitted a application for commercial medical cannabis cultivation registration for 8,000 square feet of outdoor canopy. All applicants for commercial cannabis cultivation must consent to a background check conducted by the Calaveras County Sheriff as required in 1795-165-N15. On August 31st, 2016, the Sheriff's Office sent the applicant a packet containing a questionnaire with live scan service request form in it and instructions to contact the Sheriff's Office. The applicant did not respond to this mailing. Again, on March 15th, 2017, the Sheriff's Office sent another packet instructing the applicant to contact them no later than June 30th, 2017. The applicant, again, did not respond to this. On July 18th, 2017, the Planning Department sent the appellant a letter instructing them to contact the Sheriff's Office within 10 days of the date of the letter, and that failure to do so would result in denial of the application. The applicant did not contact the Sheriff's Office within that time, therefore the application was denied.
Okay, any questions?
Yes. My packet doesn't seem to have a copy of anything sent by the sheriff to the applicant on August 31, 2016. Do you have that?
That is just a packet containing the general questionnaire and request for live scan service that's sent to every applicant. We do not have a copy of it. The only copy we have from the Sheriff's Office is the March 15th letter.
How do you know it was sent on August 31, number one, and how do you know what address it was sent to?
I contacted Natalie Jackson at the Sheriff's Office and asked her, and that is what she confirmed.
Okay, similar question with respect to the May 15th, strike that, March 15th, 2017 letter from the sheriff. I don't see an address on it. How do we know it went to the correct address?
I only have verbal confirmation from Natalie Jackson in the Sheriff's Office.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So can you tell us what the Sheriff's Office, general office procedures are as far as the things that would specifically trigger the mailings of these sort of notices?
The first packet is mailed to all applicants, just by simple virtue of filing the commercial cannabis application. You are sent a packet to the mailing address listed on the registration form, so that's how the first one was triggered. The second one was when the Sheriff's Office noted that they had received no contact from the applicant regarding the packet they sent out, so they sent the second one with the letter imploring the applicant to contact them as soon as possible, specifically June 30th.
And you know, this March 15th, 2017, were there a whole batch of letters? Was this sent out to everybody who hadn't responded to the first packet?
It's my understanding that they sent that letter to everyone who failed to respond to the first one.
At that time, so it's all dated that.
I'm just curious how that process is working. Does the Sheriff's Department have a list of every registrant that they're expecting a background check to come through on, or do you notify the Sheriff's Department and say this isn't cleared through our file, where are we at with it? How does that work?
Bless you.
Bless you.
It's a little of both.
Okay.
With the initial 730 or so commercial applicants, that list is given to them and they sent out the first bulk mailing based off of that.
Okay.
As the new strictly caregiver applications come in this year, the M Drive, which is a shared drive amongst the departments working on the cannabis program, is updated, and I notify the Sheriff's Office when that update happens so that they can see that another background check's required.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions? Or would like to go to the appellant? Okay. Hi there.
Good evening.
Oh,
Sign in
you had to
first.
remind us it's evening. Thank you for sitting here all day.
It was quite a lesson in civic
Pensions.
My name is Linda Dyken. This is my husband, Gary. We came to the county in 1986. We've been here for over 30 years. And we're organic farmers, homesteaders, really. And we lost everything in the Butte Fire. So I am still recovering from that event. And I know certainly that it's because of that event that I had failed to do what I was supposed to do. I do remember the first mailing clearly, and I filled the paperwork out, and then I promptly lost it at some point in my crazy life after the fire. I called the sheriff's office, actually, and they sent me another packet. I clearly remember talking to them. I actually had even made an appointment to have my fingerprints done and had to cancel because of my car breaking down. And so they sent me another packet, and I was in communication with these people to get my fingerprints done. I'm also a founding member of the Mountain Oaks School that we started over 20 years ago, and I educated my kids that way. And I was fingerprinted then because I had to be fingerprinted to work at the school. So there was no real intentional thing. It's more just, for me personally, the upheaval of the fire has left me kind of grasping for my life, in all honesty. We had a beautiful homestead there where we were growing our own food and really, had a good life. We had a good life. I just turned 60 and, I'm 60 now, but then I was 58 or 57 or whatever, and we would look at each other at night and say, we did it, we really did it. We raised our kids, and we were really very fortunate to be able to live our dream of homesteading on the land. And that was all taken from us in September 2015. So and then this came down the pike right after that. And that we had to comply to do this, which was very difficult financially and just logistically, intelligently. I was very challenged to do this. But I went ahead and started the paperwork, and we had heard that the inspectors had been out on a road, and but nobody came to inspect, so we'd never been inspected. And so then I started calling them and saying, please come and inspect us so we can, get on with this program, because here you are committing all this energy to a project that you don't know is going to be approved. And this is, again, I'm going to keep going back to the fire, because that is the truth of our lives right now. So I talked to them in code compliance several times, and they were too busy. They were here, they were there. It didn't happen. I don't remember receiving a letter that told me I had this certain date to do this, or I would have done it. I feel really stupid for being denied for this reason, and so that's why I'm appealing it. Also, once I got the appeal letter, I made an appointment to have my fingerprints done, and I had an appointment. I talked to the man. I was heading down there. He gives me a call and says, "You just got an email from the planning department not to do any more fingerprints." So otherwise, I would be able to provide that for you today. Let's see. I covered all that. I would think that we are the kind of families that you would want to be cultivating marijuana. We're simple people. We're not money grubbers. We're just, want a good life for us and our family and our community. So I would really appreciate your support in improving our people.
You indicate you're homesteaders. Do you own the property?
Yes, we have 160 acres.
Okay.
And there's nobody out where we live that's going to complain about anything.
We're on Harbor Road. We're off-grid as well. We have been off-grid for the whole 30 years. And the other thing that's been really hard is that we're not living together because he's on the property with our dogs, trying to make a life start there, and I'm in McCollum Hill, just trying to live, and because it's just too rough out there. It's too hard to be out there for me.
So I'm out there sometimes, but we rent a place in Colony Hill until we get some reimbursement from PG, and then of course we intend to build back our homestead. We lost barn, chicken coop, corn crib, fences, shop,
30 years.
We are still living in a state of crisis. And in that state of crisis, we did fail to contact the sheriff in a timely manner. I guess we're just kind of hoping you can see that maybe that's just a small error, just like you not getting out to inspect us. And maybe you could let us go on that.
And I didn't know about this deadline. I did not know that.
So you indicate it's 160 acres? I'm sorry, I'm right here.
That's all right.
We own
Sorry.
3 parcels.
I'm sorry?
We own
3 parcels.
3 adjacent parcels.
Okay. Do you know who Frank Meyer or Patricia Meyer is?
Yes.
Oh, yes, they're our neighbors.
They're your neighbors?
Yes, I mean, they don't live there anymore because they lost everything in the
We
fire.
share a
Right.
corner post with them.
I'm sorry?
We share a corner post with them.
Okay.
One of our corner posts is,
And what is your physical address?
There's one parcel that's 6330 Hopper that adjacents this parcel.
this parcel doesn't have a street
Doesn't
address.
have any structure, so it's got an APN.
Mm-hmm.
It has no street address.
That was another fiasco. I went in the building department to try and get my
Oh, there it is. Okay.
stamps, and they're like, no, you have to have an address. And
So now I get it, because I was really confused by the way that this is worded. Directly east of, and it gave this address of 6228. That is not your parcel. I'm with you now.
And so that was a whole.
It's confusing.
Anyway, that was another.
Okay, so you don't
runaround.
have a physical address on the property. Now it makes a lot more sense to me. Thank you. Okay, any other questions for them? No.
Yeah, the file has a letter of July 18th to you from the planning department. Did you get that letter?
I don't think I got that one. I definitely got the denial notice because I had to sign for it. But I didn't even get that for about another week. Otherwise, because I'm just so challenged.
Since we're living in Moke Hill now, we don't get to the San Andreas post office as often as we used
So
to.
it had been sitting there for a
Things
week,
sit
or I probably would have got my fingerprints done, so. I understand your denial. I do understand it. I'm just asking for you to be compassionate to our
It
circumstances.
seems like a small thing considering the crisis we're already in.
And I think you'd want people like us to be doing it, because we're just simple people, we're not money grubbers. We're not gonna take up a ton of water, we're not gonna.
We intentionally did a smaller footprint because we didn't, I don't want to be a full-time marijuana grower. I want to be a human being that lives on the land.
Well, and in fact, I applied for 8,000 square feet because I thought maybe we'd grow to that or something, but we didn't do that the first year, and then I actually sent a letter to Peter saying, trying to reduce that, but he sent it back saying they couldn't because the aerial photo said blah, blah, blah. Well, the aerial photo is our grape vineyard and our orchard and the few things that survived the fire, so I never got to dispute that either, actually. So we paid our taxes on the 8,000 square feet,
Hmm.
even though it's not what we did.
In your appeal letter, you indicate that you let the deadline get away from you, and you went down there to deal with it, that you were told you needed an address, so you couldn't. So you did know that the sheriff's department didn't have your background check?
Oh, yeah, I was aware of that, and like I said, I made an appointment a couple of times. One time my car broke down, and I'm sorry, I really can't remember why.
Was that during the urgency ordinance process that you were trying to comply, or was it when you got the March letter from the sheriff's department?
It was before that.
Before, okay. So I was just trying to make sense of your appeal letter to the, okay.
I mean, I knew I was supposed to do it. It was definitely on my list.
Okay.
But honestly, if you looked at my bill record and everything right now, you would see what I don't like to say that I'm a mess, but I'm challenged right now.
That's a good word. Butte Fire was very challenging and still is. Okay, so we do have somebody sitting in the public, so if there's no other questions for you, I would like to see if the public would like to comment.
Okay. Can we sit down?
Don't look behind you, you're it. Would you like to speak on this appeal? Okay, thank you. All right, Since there's no, do you have anything you'd like to rebuttal on that?
I do not.
Okay, and so there's nothing more to rebuttal for you either, okay. All right, so, here we are. We're closing the public hearing, bringing it back to the commissioners for discussion.
This is another one of those heart-pulling ones, but we have voted no for the same reason on many other people.
I don't know the exception that we can apply. If someone could point that out to me, I'd love to follow it.
So I think what you're finding is we accept that you are good people and that we want you to be able to stay on your land and farm it. Unfortunately, we see no way around the ordinance. I see no way around the ordinance. Maybe you do. Would you?
She did actually have a background check with the sheriff previous, so that might be what it was.
And the other was that, you know, I
Public
We-
hearing
told me this was the debt.
Okay, I'm sorry,
Right.
hold on one moment, please. Because the public hearing was closed, you're not allowed to speak anymore. But I think that the commissioners, I feel that they want to hear from you, so I am going to reopen the hearing to allow you to come up to the mic and speak. Sorry.
I was feeling like the only leg we really had to stand on might be that we didn't receive the deadline letter. And that's what I didn't know. I wasn't aware.
The
until I got
letter that the
denial.
sheriff sent you gave you till June.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay, and then,
So that would be my one leg to stand on. Other than that, just kind of just saying, you know, we've been in kind of a county fiasco over this thing. And, you know, I was never even inspected. And here I'm going to be denied because I didn't get my fingerprints. I mean, like, I understand that that's
he
the
indicated that you
ordinance.
did a background check already. Did you bring a copy of anything like that, or?
No, I would have, but I didn't.
We
The
haven't,
background
Not that
check
it would
that
change
you
anything.
no.
had before was for something else, correct?
It was.
And we've had a case recently where somebody said, well, I got a background check somewhere else. And
I
and that
heard that, and
didn't
so
cut
I
it.
thought about going and doing it,
So-
just going to Sacramento and getting my fingerprints done. And
Yeah.
so I didn't do that because I had heard that that didn't matter.
You're
So
right.
I really think that the only thing I have is that I didn't know that the deadline was there, and I got denied.
So anyhow, you can tell where I was heading on my
Oh, yeah.
statement. I see no way that we can grant your appeal. And we can't do things on the basis of you're a good person, you know, when we have to enforce the ordinances to everybody else. So I hope your orchard and your vineyard are doing very well. I cannot vote to grant your appeal. I'm sorry.
The hearings,
Pardon me?
We just go there.
Can we
The
just
hearing-
go?
the hear-
Oh.
we're deliberating now.
Now we're going to close the public hearing again. You're not allowed to speak, and I'm bringing it back for deliberation. And no, you can't leave till we're done talking, because maybe somebody has something great to say. You can leave. I'm just teasing.
I'm looking at the urgency ordinance that's cited, which is 17.95.165N15, and it simply says, all applicants for a commercial medical cannabis cultivation site shall submit fingerprints and be subject to criminal background checks conducted by the Calaveras County Sheriff. It doesn't say when. And she says she did not get the July 18th, 2017 letter from the planning department that is the letter that puts a 10-day trigger on getting the background check done. And since the denial letter's gone out already from planning, the sheriff's office will not conduct the background check unless this planning commission decides to grant her appeal. So that's where we are. I am in favor of granting this appeal because I think she ought to have the chance, given the circumstances, to have that sheriff conduct that background check. Now, her application may well be denied for any number of other reasons, we don't know. But given the peculiar circumstance of this case and the fact that She apparently didn't get that letter.
And the last one did get the letter twice. The last appeal that we denied on this basis got 2 letters.
But it doesn't really matter because they're courtesy letters.
But there's no date in the ordinance is what he's saying. There was no deadline.
There's no deadline in the ordinance.
So it's up to the county to provide the deadline, which that letter would have done. And if we accept her individual testimony or statement that she did not receive that letter, then she's never been under a deadline. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying, and the fact that she has told us that she did call the sheriff, she was working on this. They did send her another packet. It fell through the cracks. It didn't get done. I understand why. That's where I am on it.
I have a hard time with working on it because we hear that from so many people. But on the specific deadline question, it would come down to, in another case where somebody said they did not receive the letter, we'd have to decide whether we wanted to believe them or not.
That's correct.
But they were working on it because she had an appointment, she didn't go, she got a second package. So I'm having a hard time with that because how long can you work on it?
I think the second package is one of the questions, right? Whether she got that one.
No, I think she said they sent another packet.
They sent her another package, so
Okay.
she got the first package and lost it, correct? Filled it out
Yes.
and misplaced it. Missed an appointment, got another package.
And we have on the, which I understand is the second packet, which is March 15th, 2017 letter, a response no later than June 30th, 2017 is desired. Is in that letter. Strange wording. As always, I'm concerned about precedence.
Well, I don't know that the second packet went out with that March 15th letter. It doesn't say it did.
But
She said she got the second packet after she called the sheriff's department, and that was prior
But would you
to the March
consider,
letter.
would you consider this to be a deadline? This, in the March 15th letter, a response no later than June 30th, 2017 is desired.
I can see how a reasonable person would not.
Does the planning department have anything to say about lack of deadline?
Well, I think it's accurate that there is no deadline in the ordinance. The language used by the sheriff's office in the March 15th letter is not a absolute deadline. The letter that we received, I think it was clear, was you must do this within 10 days, but she claims not to have received it, so.
You've convinced me,
Who
sir.
sent out the letter that we must do this within 10 days?
We did, planning department did.
To them?
To all the people that still had not received a,
And did she respond within the 10 days?
no, and that was why we denied it.
So a deadline was given?
Yes, but
And that's the letter she says she didn't get?
No.
That's what I understood was the argument, that
that's the
she'd not
letter she
received that
didn't
letter.
get.
Right. So since it's not a publicly stated deadline, it's something in a letter, I guess the question is, it's like a tree falling in the woods. Is a deadline that's stated in a letter that is not received a deadline set by the county? And I'm becoming convinced by Commissioner Wooster that the special facts of this case can apply.
And I said I didn't know of any exceptions. Commissioner Wooster has found one, I think.
except for I have a question. How did the appellant know they were denied if they didn't get the letter?
We sent them a registered letter, and they did receive that.
Yeah,
They
and she
received the
mentioned
registered
that.
letter.
She
Got
had-
it,
she
got
had
it,
to
got
sign
it,
for
got it.
Was the registered letter also sent to the post office box?
Yes.
And did they respond within the 10 days of the registered letter? Oh, that's
Well,
just the
they-
appeal. That
they-
was the denial. There was no time frame.
No, well, they
The
did
15
within the
days.
15 days, yes.
Is it true that we don't know anything else about this application, whether everything else was done right or wrong, or?
There are no additional grounds for denial at this time. It was required for.
So they did submit all the photos and it was inspected or whatever?
It sounds that it was not inspected, and I don't have exact familiarity with how far along in the process this application was prior to it being denied.
So it could still get an inspection and still have an issue in the future. So they, okay. So we can sit here all day and dwell on this because it's one of those ones that tears your heart out and you gotta just move it forward.
So I'll go with upholding it.
Upholding the appeal.
Yeah.
I too,
You mean granting the appeal?
Granting the appeal.
yeah.
That's 3 votes. Okay,
So since again, this is, we're reversing the recommendation, I think the motion that would be again to, grant the appeal, directing staff to bring back a revised resolution on the 29th.
okay. So we are gonna poll or do an official motion that we will bring this back as a consent agenda item to uphold the appeal for November 29th, and I'll need a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to grant the appeal and direct the planning department to bring us a resolution granting the appeal for the consent agenda on November 29th of this year.
And I need a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. 4-1.
Aren't you glad you didn't leave?
So, see, I told you not to leave.
Yeah. Well, given the fact that the planning commission has now granted the appeal, we will notify the sheriff's office so they can complete that background check. Yeah. And there may be no reason to appeal, but if anyone wanted to appeal this action, it would be from the date, 15 days from the 29th when the final action is taken. You do not need to be here for that.
You do not need to be here, but
You may be if you want to. Yes.
You're well welcome to.
it'll be at the beginning of the hearing.
And the, on the consent calendar, there won't be any presentation by the planning department, and we won't be looking to you for
Comment.
comments or any of us commenting. It's just gonna be
No.
outside.
No.
You'll be able to see the proposed new resolution in advance on the Planning Commission's website on the agenda for that day.
And I will forewarn you that we expect a very large crowd here that day. There will be no seating room.
Well, I watch you on TV,
Okay.
mostly. I'm so
Okay.
thankful. I can get it. Thank you so much for being,
So you have a lot of follow-through to do. This was
Yes.
your chance to follow through.
okay. I will.
Okay.
Have a blessed evening.
Thank you, you too. All right, so, are there any informational items? No. Is there any study sessions? No. Are there any commissioner reports?
I just would like to report that Commissioner Wooster is a remarkable member of this commission, and that saved our skins on that last one. Thank you very much.
Thank
That's
you.
my commissioner's report.
That was very nice of you. Did you mean it?
Yeah,
All right.
today. As of this
Okay.
moment.
Planning Director, do you have anything to report?
It seems as though I did have something, but if there was, I can't remember what it was at this point, so.
Sorry.
We'll see you on the 29th.
Okay. Any special instructions for us on the 29th?
8:30.
We're going to start 8:30. We will get you the draft ordinance as soon as it is available. And we are working on it
Bye, Joe.
as soon as we're done.
And insubstantive clerical errors could potentially be forgiven.
Excuse me, sir, I did not adjourn the meeting.
The minutes will reflect that Commissioner Bocelli left early.
Even Colleen is waiting for me to adjourn.